Exterminator Rick Weaver and his fiancée, Chrissy Mayer, are suing business owner Stephen Burt for emotional distress over the botched sale of a van. Stephen is countersuing for the return of his deposit and for vandalism to his car.
Order, all rise. Now, this is case number 273 on the calendar in the matter of Weaver, Mayer versus Burt. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Weaver, this case is a little complicated, so let me see if I can untangle it. You had a 1989 van that you decided to sell, and I assume you put a sign out in the van?
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant, who you didn't know, saw the sign and decided to buy the van. He gave you a deposit. There is some discrepancy as to the amount of the deposit, but he gave you a deposit. He was supposed to come back and pay the rest.
Right.
According to you, he did not come back on the day he was supposed to come back, so the next day you sold the van to somebody else.
Yes.
When he did come back for the van, you told him, I'm sorry, you didn't come back when you were supposed to, so I sold it to somebody else. The defendant said, okay, give me my deposit back.
Right.
You said it was a non-refundable deposit. Then there were several things that happened. He says you told him you'd give him some money when you got a check, and he came back a couple of times to try to get the money. In any event, you claim that he had you falsely arrested for terrorizing him.
Yes.
And you want to be compensated for that false arrest.
Yes.
Mr. Burt is counterclaiming. He wants his deposit back, and he wants damage to his car because he said when he tried to pursue you for the return of his deposit, you did in fact threaten him, and you threw a brick at his car, damaging his car, and he's counterclaiming. So, Mr. Weaver, tell me when Mr. Burt approached you. He came to your house?
Yes.
What date?
It was July 17th when he came to my house. I heard a doorbell ring, went to the door. Excuse me.
I ask questions you had. July 17th is your answer.
Yes.
How much were you asking for the van?
I wanted $1,000 for it.
Did you write up an agreement with him?
Yes, we did.
Do you have a copy of the agreement?
No, I gave it to him because it was like a receipt.
Can I see the receipt, please?
Yes, ma'am.
I want the original receipt.
Well, ma'am, what happened to the original, my wife had washed my pants and it got destroyed, and I had to make a copy of it.
You say the price was $2,000, Mr. Burt.
Actually,
I want you to make very, very certain, Mr. Burt,
okay,
that we understand each other absolutely 100% right. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
How much of a deposit did you give him?
I gave him a $1,200 deposit, ma'am.
Show me proof that you had $1,200 with you and where you got the money from.
Okay.
Because he says you gave him a $100 deposit. There's a big difference. He says you're selling the car for $1,000. You say $2,000. You say you gave him a $1,200 deposit. He says you gave him...
No, I asked him for a $100 deposit. He brought back $200.
Show me where you took $1,200 from, Mr. Burt.
Yeah, I'm a carpet cleaning business owner.
You a what?
Carpet cleaning business owner. I own a carpet cleaning business called Priority One. What happened was, me and my wife went home. I got the $1,200.
From where?
From my house. What happened, I didn't have it in the bank because I had a discrepancy with bank, and I had to withdraw all my money out of the bank. And that basically came through a settlement that I had received.
Burt, you think that you can get me the Blue Book value of a 1989 Astro van with 200,000 miles?
Sure.
Good. Thank you. Now, sir, he gave you, according to you, $200, and he was supposed to come back when?
On July 27th. He never called, never showed up.
On the 27th?
On the 27th, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what happened on the 28th? Who'd you sell it to?
On the 28th, I waited all day for him to call, left a note on my door even, which he had stated to me after he came 2 weeks later, after the 28th, that he had saw the note and never called me anyway, because he said his wife was in a hospital. Sorry.
When did you sell the car, the 28th?
The night of the 28th. What I did
to
was...
whom?
His name was Guy.
And you have all of his information, is
Yes,
that right?
I have the canceled check and the
And what's
receipt.
the canceled check? You can step up. Burt isn't here. Step up.
I'm sorry. This is the receipt we wrote up the day of 28th.
Good.
That's
Step
canceled
back.
check. Thank you.
All right, so this is my question. So 2 weeks later, Mr. Burt comes back and says, where's my car? And you said, I don't have the car, and he wants his deposit back.
Right.
Clearly, based upon the evidence that you've just given me, sir, you sold the car for more money to this other person
Yes.
than you did to
The reason
Mr.
why-
than you did to Mr. Burt. So you were not out any money. Why didn't you give him back his $200?
Because when he had first come to my house, I said I needed the money for my mortgage because I was out of work because of my knee, and I needed the money by the 27th. I said it was a non-refundable deposit if you did not show up.
Come on. It's not in your contract.
I know I should have written it, but it was
It's
wrong.
not there. And if you write up a contract and it's not there, I mean, not that I'm saying this might not have been altered to alter the money, because I think that that's a possibility. Because clearly I believe that you sold the van for $1,100. So why would you sell it to him for $2,000 and then sell it to somebody else for half that? You have a price there for me?
Trade-in fair is $900, Judge.
Okay. Fine. So no way, Mr. Burt, do I believe that you paid $2,000 for this van.
No, Your
Do you
Honor, I didn't.
Do you understand that you agreed to pay $2,000 for this van?
Yes,
No
I did.
way. Okay, because you're a businessman. And a businessman doesn't pay twice as much for something that it's worth and it's listed in that book for. So this, sir, that you handed to me, you altered.
No.
Oh, yes, you did. Yeah, you did. $2,000 deposit, $1,200. That's what you wrote here. So somebody wrote in a 1 in front of the 2 and changed the 1 to a 2. Somebody did that. Maybe it was the used car ferry or something. I don't know. Somebody did it, if not you. So don't try to pull one over on me, Mr. Burt. He should have given you your deposit back, but don't try to make money off this thing. We understand each other, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He says, get off my property, harassing me, or I'm gonna blow your head off. Call me a
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rick Weaver says he was arrested when Stephen Burt filed a false report with the police. Stephen says Rick threatened him and then threw a brick at his car.
Now, he came to your house a couple of times for the money. Is that right?
Yes. The first time he came, I had told him it was non-refundable, and he left. He said he's going to sue me. I said, fine, do what you got to do. He came back again, and in good faith, I said, listen, I said, in good faith, we had a verbal agreement about the deposit, said it was non-refundable, it was verbal. I said, in good faith, I'll give you half of it back when I get my disability check. He agreed to that. He said that was fine, and I told him to come back, you know, in about a month I'd have it. So he showed up 2 weeks later, and that's when all this other stuff occurred.
Well, tell me about all the other stuff, sir.
Me and my fiance were pulling up in my driveway. He pulled up behind us. We were walking up to my door, and he said, I need to get all your information. I said, what do you mean information? He said, for information to sue you. I said, you have my information. You have my, you know where I live. You know my name. I said, you have all my information. There's nothing. I said, you get off my property, or I'm calling the cops because you're harassing me about this $100. And he left.
Why? It's not 100, it's 200.
Yeah, I know, but we had agreed on 100.
You didn't give him the 100.
No, because I didn't have my disability check yet.
You got the money from the car.
Right.
Sir.
I paid my mortgage. At the
That's
time.
not his problem.
I know.
And I believe that you threatened him, because that's what he's going to tell me. Is that right, Mr. Burt?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, I've already caught you in one lie, so let's not do it again. I want you to tell me exactly what happened the second time you went to his house and said to him, give me your information. Do you understand, Mr. Burt? I don't
Yes,
want you
ma'am.
to fabricate anymore.
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
I went to Mr. Weaver's house. I seen him and his girlfriend pull in the driveway. I pulled behind him. Mr. Weaver came over to me. He says, I told you when I get my disability, I was going to give you the $100. I said, well, we need to let a judge decide what to do in this case, because I shouldn't keep coming to you for a deposit that
You're
you owe me.
absolutely right.
I said, and the reason I'm here is just to get your complete address and a telephone number so they can contact you.
Okay.
He stormed away from me. He went in the house. He came out, slammed open the screen door. He was pointing an object at me. I couldn't see what it was, but he says, get off my property, harassing me, or I'm going to blow your effing head off. He caught me in. I got in my car. He came off the step. He threw a brick, and he did damage to my car, doing over $800, Your Honor. And I have pictures of the damage.
Well, let
and
me
I
see.
also have a...
And I want to see the police report.
I
And
don't
this
have
was
the
on
police report with me. I
Why
just
not?
have... The only thing that I received was a complaint from Mr. Weaver. They never
Did
gave
you-
me a police report where I filed on him.
When did you file?
I filed the same day
Where?
at Clementon Police Department.
So you left his house and went right to the police department?
Yes, ma'am, after he threw the brick.
Okay, when were you arrested, sir?
The next day, me and my fiance and her 12-year-old daughter were pulling up my driveway. Chief pulled in. I've known for years. He said, "Rick, I have to arrest you. Someone said you threatened them with a gun." I said, "You know me better." And I said, I hate guns. I don't even let my kids play with plastic guns."
It's not true, Your Honor.
Shh, quiet.
And he said, "Well, I have to do my job. It's coming from Camden Superior Court, and I have to do my job." So they arrested me, took me down, fingerprinted me. I got arrested in front of my 12-year-old future stepdaughter, which was very embarrassing and degrading. They took me down in front of all my friends who were police officers. I'm friends with everybody in the town. Arrested me, fingerprinted me, photoed me. I had to go in a van, ride around in a van, a county van. They put me in a holding cell for 22 hours with 18 guys. The one was the guy was laying next to me on the floor, was defecating in.
I don't care. Don't go. Listen to me. Your call could have been avoided if you gave him his $200. Right? All could have been avoided if you gave him his $200. Now, I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you throw a brick at his car?
No, ma'am.
No, I don't believe you did.
No, ma'am.
I don't believe you did, but I do believe you threatened him.
No, I did not.
Oh, yes, that I believe. I believe that you told him to get off or you're going to blow whatever. That I believe you did. You see what happens when you lie once, Mr. Burt? When you lie once, like this, and you hand this kind of stuff to me, then I find suspect other things that you say when it's not consistent. What is consistent is that he got annoyed with you coming around, that when you came back and you were very polite, you said to him, "I need all your information. I need your full address." You had his address. All you had to do was look up at the number on the house and you see his address. You wanted a phone number. Do you need a phone number? I'm not sure you do, but you wanted his phone number. I can understand him not wanting to give you the phone number because maybe he was afraid that you'd keep calling to harass him. But I do believe he threatened you. Don't believe this, don't believe this. So I believe you have the right to go and say he threatened me. If they followed through with that, I assume you told them the whole story, then you have no case. Now, you have a counterclaim for the return of your deposit and the damage to your car. He's suing you for $3,000 for intentional infliction of emotional distress for the time he spent in jail and being arrested, all of which came about because he didn't do the right thing. He, in effect, stole your money. Understand that? You stole his money. He gave you $200. You refused to give it back. He was very patient. You were treating him like a fool. And that's what happened to you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rick Weaver says he was arrested when Stephen Burt filed a false report with the police. Stephen says Rick threatened him and then threw a brick at his car.
You shouldn't have been a pig, which you were. You said, not only am I going to get $1,100 from this guy, I'm going to get another $200. It's $1,300 for the van. And the van is, according to you, got 200,000 miles, all banged up, not worth much, 13 years old, right?
Right.
So here I got top dollar for this van. So you spent 2 days in jail because you were a pig. As far as you're concerned, sir, you're suing him for $2,085.12, damage to your car, which I don't believe, and return of the van deposit, which you say is $800, which I also don't believe. $200. So you get $200, you get $200, you both get nothing. Goodbye.
Excuse, you may step out.
I think he should have handled it more like a man.
He pleaded his case. I had to pay $7,500 cash bail, and I spent 2 days
And
in
the
jail.
prosecutor in Camden ended up throwing it out anyway
Yeah,
because it was
all the
based on a
cases were thrown
lie.
out because he lied on them.
Mechanic Mark Lively and his wife Margaret are suing their neighbors, construction worker David Bowen and his girlfriend Ada Wilson, for a stolen pair of glasses and medical bills as the result of an assault. David is countersuing, claiming Mark assaulted him.
Order. All rise. Okay. Yeah, this is case number 377 on the calendar in the matter of Liebert versus Bowen. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Are you ladies really involved in this case? You're not the actual plaintiff or defendant, so why don't you sit down, because this has to do with the gentleman. Mr. Liebert, is this your wife?
Yes, ma'am.
It is your claim that the defendant, who was a neighbor of yours, assaulted you. You want to be compensated for that assault. You lost wages, your medical bills, pain and suffering. Mr. Bowen says that no, it was you who attacked him, and he is counterclaiming. How long have you been neighbors?
Probably the last 3 years.
All right. I gather from the answer in the complaint in this case that there was some trouble after someone reported someone else to the Environmental Protection Agency. Now, who did that reporting?
I did, Your Honor.
Tell me why.
Because of the continuous problem of that we don't have no sewers on the street, so they have a salvage yard, or he stores cars, whatever, and when he does that, they take engines out and they salvage their parts in their driveway, and then they inadvertently wash it out, and it comes across my driveway. And then, if last year we had been in a drought...
You're talking about the oil and...
The oil and all of his stuff that comes across my driveway is continuously muddy. So I asked the plaintiff...
Muddy from dirt or oil?
Oil, antifreeze, whatever comes out of a car when you salvage it.
So because you had this oil and sludge on your property, you reported him to the Environmental Protection Agency.
Yes.
And what happened as a result of that, Mr. Liebert?
Nothing, as far as I know. I have not received anything.
Did you get a ticket?
No.
Did somebody come out there and look at your property?
As far as I know, no.
Did you know about his complaint?
Yes, I have.
Well, how did you know about his complaint?
Well, I was washing the car one day, and the water ran to his driveway.
Right.
So that's the first time I heard his complaint about it.
Well, what did you do after he complained to you that all of this schmutz was ending up on his property? What did you do?
Well, I don't wash every day, so I didn't,
You didn't change the way you did business?
No, I was just washing the car only. And I don't do it maybe once a month.
He's not talking about washing cars. He's talking about salvaging cars.
I don't salvage cars.
You don't take cars apart?
No. If I do anything, it's in the garage. I do not have a permit.
I'm not sure whether I believe that. All right. Tell me what happened, Mr. Liebert.
Yes, ma'am. I was in the backyard, and I heard my dad yelling, and I come out to see what he was yelling about, and he said the neighbor swerved his car towards him when he was walking up the hill. And I came out there, and the neighbor, Mr. Bowen, come running up the hill, and we started yelling back and forth. And then once he started yelling back and forth, I told him I didn't want no problems, and he spit in my face. So I took him to the ground.
How did you do that?
Just wrestled him to the ground, then I let him back up. He gets in my face again, and he goes and, motions to swing at me. I took him to the ground again, and I started hitting him. I hit him about 6 times.
So, according to you, he spit at you first.
Yes, ma'am.
You took him down to the ground.
Yes, ma'am.
He got up.
Yeah.
He again got in your face, which means he didn't hit you, but he got in your face yelling. You took him down again and started to hit him and hit him at least 6 times.
Yes, ma'am.
And then what happened?
Well, when the first time I took him down, my glasses slid off, and I never recovered them. Then I let him up again. I backed off. He tries kicking me again.
No, you didn't say he
he tries kicking me.
You didn't tell me that before,
No.
sir.
No,
All you did was say he got in your face.
He tries kicking me. And I grab his foot, and he dropped to the ground again. I stood back. He picks up a rock and throws at my father that was looking for my glasses.
So he threw a rock after you would hit him 6 times?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, and then
Where did you hit him, by the way?
I don't know, probably maybe the face.
And when you hit him with your fist?
Yes, ma'am.
So then he got up and he threw a rock?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Meanwhile, I was looking for my glasses. He kept on throwing rocks. One bounce hit me in the shin, and then one hit me directly in the rib cage.
And that's the assault that you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like you to tell me your version of these events, Mr. Bowen.
On the date of August 29th, I was coming home from work approximately about 4:30 p.m., and I noticed Mr. Liebert, he was walking up the road in the middle of the road, and the road in question is very narrow. There was nowhere for me to go either side of the road, and when I seen him, I was pretty close. As I observed him, he bent over and picked up what I thought to be a rock. So I didn't have no choice but to stop, so I hit my brakes, and as I stopped, Mr. Liebert come rushing up to my door with a rock in his hand. I didn't know what to do, so I started to open the door. He run up and pushed my door shut, and when he pushed it shut, he fell down. I then pushed my door open and got out. Still not knowing what to do, he had a rock in his hand, was getting up, so I picked me up a rock. I said, hey, what's the problem? I'm just got home from work, what is your problem? And he'd been saying he's going to get me for all these things I've been turning him in for. And he's just, yeah, I'm tired of you yelling. I can't even tell you all what he was yelling at me. So we had our altercations. My sister and my
What do you mean you had your altercations? What does that mean?
we were arguing back and forth.
Just verbally?
After it was over, he walked back up on his property, continued to throw rocks. I said, I had enough of this. I said, Suze, which my sister was standing right there, I said, Suze, I will be back up to talk to you because we were leaving to go to Flintstone Park to take my girlfriend and her 2 kids on vacation to see Flintstones. So, I'm sorry, so I got down there, I walked back up the hill to talk to my sister. When I got back up there, Mr. Liebert come out. And as he come down, he was yelling at me what my problem was. He spit from about 10 or 15 feet away, hit me right in the face. So I took my glasses off, and I no sooner got my glasses off and he rushed me. He grabbed me by the arm, pushed me straight back down the hill and fell on top of me. At this point, there was nothing I could do. My arms were trapped underneath me. The only thing was left was my arm on the side. I thought he was getting in a lot of punches. As Ada and all the other witnesses said, he was on top of me and is kicking me in the head and the ribs. And well, at that point, my girlfriend come up, jumped on his back, started punching him in the back. Denise came up with the cell phone, started hitting him on the head. That inadvertently called my sister, which she heard all the commotion. She called the cops. That's how the cops got called. Then after that, they let me up. When I got up, Mr. Liebert was attempting to hit me with a rock, so I run out into the field to get away from him. And when I got out in the field, he chased me, pulled my shirt down over my head, and as I was trying to fight him, I fell down, and Miss Junior come running up and kicked me again in the ribs as I was on the ground. I got up, and the altercation pretty much ended after that.
Okay. Now, I understand from your complaint that you have a videotape of this incident. Is that right?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Hi! I'm in my yard. Hi! Go! Dave!
That's you hitting him pretty good, sir.
Yes.
Crankhead, that's right. Crankhead! Hope you guys like to get sued.
That's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
And later today,
Your husband went to shoot some of your neighbor's dogs with a BB gun.
Before that, he came back into the house and got a real gun and pointed it at the neighbors.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mark Liebert says neighbor David Bowen assaulted him during an argument. David says Mark started the fight.
Let's start it from the top, please, Byrd. Now, you're in the red shirt, is that right?
Yep.
All right, skid and camcorded! Camcorded! That's all right. He can threaten us all the time with a gun, honey. We got it all on camcorder. I got it all, honey. I always do. Hi. I'm in my yard. Hi. Psycho. Yeah. Hi. Hi.
No.
Dude, you need to get off.
Who is that?
Whatever. Yeah. Hi.
Who is that?
His
A friend of my
sister's friend.
sister's.
That's you hitting him pretty good, sir.
Yes.
That's you
I got
punching
about
him
6
pretty
hits.
good.
I got about 6 hits on
Where's
him.
your gun at now, Dave?
See, I let him up. There's my glasses right there. The little girl's got my glasses again.
Who cares?
Okay.
There we go, watch.
Yeah, you yours. Stay off each other. Get out of my yard! Run inside! You want to get out of my yard throwing rocks at my husband?
This ain't your yard.
Yeah, it is. That's my driveway. My driveway. My driveway. You're the incest. Quit your sister, y'all her. Crankhead. Crankhead. That's right. Crankhead.
That's all you do is your brother's cousin and sister.
Okay, I'm not talking about your family, you freaks.
We're done when I say we're done.
Whatever, freak.
That's when
Freak.
we say we're
Freak.
done.
Crankhead.
And we ain't
You guys are crank. Whatever. Whatever.
call me whatever you want.
Yeah.
Don't let you drive.
Yeah, that's all right. I know where you live.
Ooh,
That's all right.
You're shaking right now, too.
That's bad. That is bad. A lot of it was not necessary, yes.
Absolutely right. Most of it was unnecessary.
Yes,
you
ma'am.
both acted very badly that day, don't you think so?
Yes, ma'am.
So why are you here? Why are you getting me involved in this? Why are you getting the judicial system involved in your bad behavior?
I would like to get my doctor bills paid for and my classes.
I would like to be 5'6". God didn't do that for me. Why are you encumbering a judicial system with nonsense where you have two neighbors who each individually acted badly, whose wives and sisters and friends all acted inappropriately, instead of sitting down and saying, boy, I acted like a real jerk, and I don't want anybody to view a tape of my acting like an idiot. My wife acting, it was your wife who was videotaping that, acting like a lowlife, gutter snipe, speaking like a gangster. Why would I want to share that with anybody else? I want to keep that private because I'm so humiliated by the way my family behaved that day. Instead, you decide to come to court to sue for your medical bills. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Certain things we do in private.
Yes, ma'am.
We go to the bathroom in private. Please. We make love in private. Right? We have family squabbles in private. But if you behave badly and your family behaved badly, it's something that you don't want to expose to the rest of the world. You want to say it's a bad episode, I'm going to learn something from it, put a period at the end of it, right? Not expose myself and my family to worldwide scrutiny. You think that people looking at this tape think that you're a nice family?
No.
Think that she's a nice person?
No.
Listen to me, sir. You behave badly. And if you're going to have to live next to each other, then you have to do the right thing. So the first thing you have to do is not do anything on your property that interferes with the enjoyment that somebody else has of their property. And if you're washing cars on your property, and if because of the way the terrain is, it accumulates dirt and smudge and oil and other schmutz on his property, you have to find somewhere else to wash your cars.
Yes, Your Honor.
And if you're going to be a reasonable neighbor, that's what you do. And if you don't, and if you want to continue to have negative interactions with your neighbor so that you and your wife and your father act inappropriately, that's what's going to happen. Don't expect the justice system to support you. We have other more important things to do than support bad behavior. And if you have a problem, then what I suggest you do is you report him to the appropriate authorities, and eventually they will come out and they'll do whatever is necessary, but you don't act like a hooligan. So I say to both of you, both your cases are dismissed. Your claim and your counterclaim. Act like adults, responsible adults. That's all. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I pretty much got this whooped out of me.
We acted inappropriately.
I'm just going to have to do what I have to do, live with them.
We got to get along.
Bank officer Susan Johnson is suing nurse Maribel Valentin, 15-year-old Christine Arvanites, and Christine's mother, Bonnie Arvanites. Susan claims while Christine was steering a bicycle built for four, she knocked over her parked motorcycle.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 217 on the calendar in the matter of Johnson versus Valentine Arvanites. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Folks have seats.
Miss Johnson, you own a motorcycle?
Yes.
And it is your claim that one or more of these people damaged your motorcycle.
Yes.
You want somebody to pay for it because your motorcycle was in a stationary position when it was hit. Is that
Yes.
right? You were chaperoning a group of teenagers,
Yes, Your Honor.
and some of them rented a bike.
Yes, Your Honor.
How many people were pedaling that bike?
4.
4 people on one bicycle. So you were the chaperone, and now I want the steerer. Who was the steerer? Okay, and where was your motorcycle parked?
It was parked across the street from where we were having lunch.
You weren't sitting on the motorcycle wasn't moving, and you went into her motorcycle. Is that right? And who was supposed to be watching you? Your defense is that her bike was parked in a bad spot.
Yes. It was parked in a red zone, Your Honor.
You explain that to me.
Okay, basically what had happened is that there was another cart that were being driven by 3 other teenagers with a parent. They were swerving right in front of us. And
were you on this cart?
I was a passenger on that cart. Yes, I was the chaperone.
Oh, you were?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were actually in the cart?
Yes, ma'am.
Not just a chaperone of the group. You were a peddler.
I was a peddler as well, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So all of a sudden I heard somebody said, watch out, there is a white car. So to avoid being hit by the white car, and then this bicycle cart that was in front of us suddenly decided to cut us off, get in front of us, and stop. So here we are trying to avoid two vehicles, which is the bicycle right in front of us and a white car. So we tried to swerve and avoid hitting anybody else. And it wasn't a stop sign, actually, that, you know, we stopped on the stop sign. And at first I didn't know that we hit something else until we looked. And there was a motorcycle that was parked on a red zone.
Was it parked in a bad zone?
The reason I was across the street from the restaurant was because I couldn't park legally where everybody else was parked. So I opted to park across the street so I would be legal, and no, it was not in a red zone.
Could it have fallen in a red zone when it went over?
I wasn't there to pick it up. Two young men had seen it. When they left the scene, they had left the bike laying on the ground. Two bystanders saw it and were nice enough to pick the bike up. And so I don't know where it landed. I just know when I came out, it was up on its wheels.
Oh. But in any event, the proximate cause of this accident, Ms. Valentine, was not the fact that her bike was parked in a red zone. The proximate cause, according to your story, is that the bicycle in front of you stopped short or made a sudden turn and cut you off, and you, in order to avoid another car, hit her bike.
By accident, yes, Your Honor.
By accident. That's why it's called an accident, not an on purpose. So who do you think should pay for the motorcycle?
Well, I don't think that I'm solely responsible for the whole expense, Your Honor. I believe that, you know, the whole group that was involved should pay, and according to what we saw, she was parked illegally on a red zone. So we should equally be responsible for it.
No, if you're the chaperone of this group, what you're supposed to do is to make sure that if you're driving one of these carts, that it's safe for your group to drive it. And according to you, it really wasn't safe. You had people who were not being careful. You had cars traveling at the same time as you had these bicycles traveling. It sounded like a real free-for-all down there. You had a white car and you had cars all around you. So you assumed certain risks. You didn't see where her bike was parked before you knocked it down, right?
No, Your Honor, but when it was knocked down, I saw that it was in a red zone.
No, it fell in a red zone.
No.
It fell in a red zone, according to you. She says her bike was parked legally when she parked it. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And even if not, the worst that she's supposed to get is a ticket, not be hit, right?
Right, Your Honor. But can I say something else,
Sure.
Your Honor? What had happened is when we were asked to return, the motorcycle was moved out of the scene, but a block or two away. So when the policemen showed up, they were already away from the scene.
So what does that mean to the story?
Basically, I was waiting for a police report, and I did not receive a police report.
Do we have one?
Your Honor, what happened was I had to go look for them. That's why the bike was not parked where it had been hit. They left the scene of the accident. They did not stay around trying to find me to tell me that they had damaged my bike. I had to go look for them. I couldn't find them.
How did you find them?
Because bystanders told me what they looked like, and I couldn't find them on the street, so I went directly to the bike shop.
Why didn't you wait?
What had happened, Your Honor, when the two guys pick up the motorcycle, they said everything looks okay, it's okay for you to leave.
What do you mean two guys? Who are the two guys?
The two guys who picked up the motorcycle.
Did you get off to look at the motorcycle?
We were just standing, we were sitting right in the corner, and we didn't
Did
really
you
stand
go
up.
over to look at the motorcycle?
No, Your Honor.
So, go ahead. So you went to the bicycle shop, you described the people.
And going to locate them after they left the scene, I knew immediately there was damage done to the bike. It was very difficult to steer. The front lever for the brake was totally bent. I could only use one finger to use my front brake. I could tell there was damage to the front of the bike. I did not look at the bike any further because I was afraid they would leave the scene knowing that they damaged the bike, return the cart, and leave the whole area. So I was unaware of how much damage until I actually got off the bike waiting for them to return.
How far did you drive the bike?
A block and a half, maybe.
So you actually started it and drove
yes.
it?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
I asked, the manager of the bike shop had already been notified of the accident by a couple of other carts. I'm assuming it was with them because they were young kids. When we looked at the bike, we saw a lot more damage. The general manager pointed out things that I didn't see. Renee was paying the bill for our lunch before leaving and came to join me at that time. We called the police. We did not press charges at that time. I do have an officer's report.
I'd like to see it.
because she stated at the scene it was her fault. She would take total responsibility for it.
Did you say that to the police?
I don't recall saying it, Your Honor.
Okay, let me see. According to the police report, it indicates he said that the responsible parties agreed to take care of the damage and that no police report was necessary. Okay.
I also would like to add, Your Honor, the owner of the bicycle shop was nice enough to send me the agreement that she signed with her thumbprint that shows that she takes full responsibility for any damages done while she's in control of the bike.
So you did, in fact, Ms. Valentin, accept full responsibility for any damage that was done by this bicycle.
According to
right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So why are we here? This was an accident. But
True.
you as the chaperone, unfortunately, agreed to take full responsibility for any damage that was caused by that bicycle while it was being driven by anyone, even if you weren't in it, because you rented it. You understood that you were assuming full responsibility, even if the bicycle not only knocked over the motorcycle, but knocked over with somebody on it and really injured them. You were responsible. Sounds to me as if you weren't acting responsibly as a chaperone, Miss Valentin. You can sit down, because you're not responsible. Miss Valentin is responsible because she accepted full responsibility when she rented this. There it is, right there.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why are we suing for $3,500?
I had to take 2 days off to go, a day and a half. The day today and the day to file.
But look at how much fun you're having.
Oh, yeah.
And later today,
if you actually believed that Miss Waller owed you money for rent, you don't sit back on your laurels. You say, dear, you know I love you, but you have to pay me for rent. And if you don't, I'm either going to sue you or evict you.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Susan Johnson claims 15-year-old Christine Arvanitas knocked over her motorcycle while riding a bicycle built for four.
Did you fix the bike?
No, I did not.
Are you going to?
No, I'm not.
Why not?
Because I no longer own it.
Where is it?
I had to sell it.
What'd you sell it for?
I took a loss on it for $1,500.
Well, that's sort of interesting. How much did you pay for the bike?
$44.
You paid $4,400. You have a bill of sale for what you sold it for?
Yes, I do.
Can I see
I
it?
also have a
Can you see? Can I
blue
see
book
it?
on what it would be cost.
Shh. No. Okay. So according to this bill of sale, you sold it in as-is condition in March. Is that right? And you
Yes,
sold
ma'am.
it for $1,500. And at that time, you'd had the bike for about 2 years. Is that right?
Approximately.
And how much would you say that a bike like this depreciates over the course of a year?
You would have to talk to Renee on
Step
that.
up.
He knows about the motorcycles.
Step up. I want to know how much you paid for the bike.
We paid $4,400 for the motorcycle at the time of purchase. We then improved the motorcycle with a $400 exhaust system and a $400 Corbin leather seat.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The Blue Book value on the bike was $4,000 at the time of the accident.
Okay.
And we sold it for $1,500, which was exactly minus the cost of the repairs, which was $1,500.
Mm-hmm. So, let's say I take everything that you say as gospel,
Thank you.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
That means if I were to make you whole, you got $1,500, she gives you $2,500, you're whole. It's like you never had the accident. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, why are we suing for $3,500?
Cost me $150 to have them served because they live in San Diego and we live in Marin.
Then you're entitled to that. $150 because she didn't respond to your letter. You're entitled to that. $26.50.
Besides that, the court costs were $20 to file.
Go ahead.
Another $20 to have it postponed. My mileage, because I live over
Not to
150
postpone. Go
miles.
ahead.
I'm
Forget
giving
it.
you why there was $3,500
All
sued
right.
for.
Go ahead. Keep going. Keep going. I'm eliminating some as you speak.
Okay, my certified mail was $1,573.
Mm-hmm.
I also included our time off and our mileage. I had to take 2 days off to go, a day and a half. A day today and the day to file.
But look at how much fun you're having.
Oh, yeah. So happy to be here.
Ms. Valentin, you're supposed to set a good example because your responsibility, you should have responded immediately to the letter. If you had responded immediately to the letter, perhaps you could have resolved this for a lot less. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,685. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The fact that she was a chaperone and actually she didn't show much regard for the law.
I still think that, parking in a red zone is illegal.
She didn't contact us. She never called us. She refused the second letter.
We didn't have enough space to move over to avoid being hit by a car.
Which is showing not much responsibility and teaching kids that it's okay if you're not caught to hit and run. Just keep going.
In a way, I am responsible, but I don't feel that I am totally responsible for it.
Take responsibilities for what you do.
It felt terrible.
Administrative Assistant Sherry White is suing her ex-husband, electrician Dale Dreyer, for having her car towed and impounded. Dale says the car was abandoned on his property. He is countersuing for storage fees.
Come to order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Now, this is case number 173 on the calendar in the matter of White versus Dreyer. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Miss White, the defendant is your former husband. You were married for a long time, 20
years.
20 years. And I gather from your papers that you had a rather acrimonious divorce.
Yes.
This case has to do with a car, an old car, that you were awarded in the judgment of divorce.
Correct.
So why don't you tell me the story about the car and what you're suing him for?
I was awarded the 1991 Hyundai in the divorce settlement.
And at the time that you were awarded the car in the divorce settlement, where was the car located physically?
It was at our home.
You say at our home, pointing to him. Did he stay in the home?
No, I stayed in after the divorce was filed. I stayed in the home for 6 weeks afterwards.
With him?
Right.
And then you left?
Yes. I left the home.
And left the car there?
No, I took the car with me.
Okay.
It was agreed that we would leave the car in his name. And then we had agreed that my son, our younger son, who was living with his father, would get the car in January when I bought a new car.
And this you discussed with the defendant?
Yes, I did.
So what did you do with the car?
Our youngest son came to live with us in February after having problems with his father. And
came to live with you?
Yes. And his father became very angry, vindictive.
Where's the car all this time?
I had the car at that time.
You had the car?
My son was driving it in January. It broke down in June. It sat there on my property for a couple months. Our oldest son had come over to my house, asked if he could have the car. I said, sure, take the car. His dad does a lot of rebuilding of the vehicles. So he towed the car to his father's house where he was living.
Your oldest son's name is?
Jonathan Dreyer.
Okay, so Jonathan takes the car. It's been in your possession, but titled in your husband's name, despite the fact that you were awarded the car in the judgment of divorce. Oldest son takes the car from your new residence and brings it back to his father's house.
Correct.
Is he living with his father?
Yes, he is.
Is that right so far?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In June, Jonathan and the car are back at the father's house, June 01. Go ahead.
So it was after he had towed the car, he called me and says, I have to get the title from you because your dad doesn't want the car up here without the title. So I said, fine, here's the title.
Okay, so you gave Jonathan the title.
Right.
Okay, so now, good.
So that was the last I'd heard about the car until May 5th, when I get a notice that he has had the car illegally put into my name.
Well, no, he hasn't had it illegally put in your name. He transferred it to your name. He was supposed to do that a long time ago.
Right, but what he had done was fraudulent, the way he had done it and what he had planned to do with it.
Well, let's see what happened. So he had put the car in your name and then?
Called it in as abandoned.
Okay, and then they came and towed it.
Yes.
And you were sent a bill from the county for how much?
The ending bill was $786.
And that's what you want?
Well, they did eventually sell the vehicle and got $60 out of it for auction.
So $726.
Correct.
And you feel as if he should be responsible for that bill?
Yes. I've got pictures here that show, I mean, this is what he does for a living. He repairs and rebuilds cars.
Okay. Well, he doesn't necessarily have to do that with this car. I want to get his version of the events. Go ahead.
Well, my one son who got the car did not take possession of the car in January because when he moved out, he had a car that I had given him, which was an '84 Volkswagen Scirocco, at which time I had to put in a report of sale and transfer it to him.
I'm talking about the 1991 Hyundai. Let's get there. Jonathan brings it back.
Jonathan brought it to my house.
Back to your house in June.
When I got home from work.
With your permission?
No, was not with my permission.
Okay. Did you tell him to take it right back?
Yes, I did.
But he didn't?
No, he did not.
Okay. At that time, Did you notify your former wife, you better come and get this car?
I could not notify her because of a restraining order which she had against me, which I have right here with me.
Yes.
Which thoroughly states that I have no contact with her whatsoever.
When
So
you
I
were
was not-
divorced, did you have a lawyer?
Yes, I did.
Then you call your lawyer and you say to your lawyer, send her a letter indicating she better come and get the car. Then you're not having contact. Do you understand?
Right.
All right, so don't give me this. You're not an unintelligent man. There are many ways to
There
deal
are
with
ways
this
of-
kind of
yes.
problem. Call your lawyer and say, I don't want this car on my property. It's her car. I'm turning it over to her. She's got the car. It's off my property. But you didn't do that. So what happened? So it sat there for how long?
It sat there until I had it towed on the 5th of May. It was the only thing that I could possibly do with the car because I had no interest in that car per divorce decree. And the only thing possibly I could do is make sure that it was in her name, which I didn't know it was not in her name because of the fact that she had to have been able to license that in February of 2001. And in order to do that, she would have to have signed the registration to do
So
that.
she signed your name. She probably did that over the last 20 years,
Yeah.
100
No, he
times.
gave me the registration. It came in his mail that he handed over to
Whatever.
me.
So that's very possible.
So I put in, by law, a report of sale, which I did not have to do because it already stated in the divorce decree that it was
Your
her
Honor.
car.
Shh. Who are you?
I'm a companion of Sherry.
I don't want to hear from you yet, if ever.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She started to get very vindictive against my girlfriends. She even emailed to one of my girlfriends just to break us up.
This is a lie.
And later today,
I'm not holding it against you that you did not dress for court today, but I think that you can get a leg up if you speak up, speak from your diaphragm. Don't swallow your words. You got it? Speak up, speak from your diaphragm. Don't swallow your words. You got it?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sherry White says ex-husband Dale Dreyer illegally towed her vehicle and then had it impounded.
Go ahead. You put the car in her name, then you
I
called
did
it,
not put the
reported
car
it.
in her name. I just put in a report of sale saying that the car was hers as of November. And at that point, I had the car towed. I put in a 72-hour notice in the window, which is required.
You put in
the
a
window of the car.
Shh, listen to me. You put in a 72-hour notice in the window of a car that's on your property,
Correct.
and then you had it towed.
Then I had it towed. That is all what's required in the state of Washington. People who own the car do not have to be notified. It just has to be put in the window of the car.
How long did your divorce take? 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2
No, our
years?
divorce was
90
final
days.
in 90 days. And it was a good divorce. In fact, we used the same lawyer. It wasn't until January when she started to get very vindictive against my girlfriends, where she even emailed from the work computers to one of my girlfriends just to break us up. She's been doing this since we've been divorced.
This is a
Okay.
lie.
Don't you think it would have been the smarter thing to do, instead of having the car towed off your property, to have it towed onto her property?
She would have still got the towing bill, and it still would have came back to me.
Maybe, and maybe not. But right now, she's got a bill of $726
Correct.
because you really didn't do the right thing.
It is the only thing I could do.
No. What you could have done to protect yourself was get in touch with the lawyer that you both used and say, look, I have this car, and if she doesn't make arrangements to come and get this car off my property, I am going to have it towed. I don't want to look at it anymore.
Which would have been more expenses for me, Your Honor.
You mean to write a letter?
For the
Or
lawyer
to call
write-
her? No. No, come on.
My lawyer charges me $185 an hour, Your
Well,
Honor.
that's all right. This would have taken all of 3 minutes.
The restraining order.
This would have taken all of 3 minutes.
Correct, Your Honor.
So as a result of what you did, she's got this bill. You think that's reasonable? You're the father of her children. She's the mother of your children. You're not supposed to do things to hurt each other. Neither one of you.
Correct.
You're not supposed to do things to hurt each other. If it didn't work out, it didn't work out. Whether it be 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, doesn't work out, you say, sorry, but you don't do things to hurt each other because that puts your kids in the middle. Is Jonathan still living with you?
No, Your Honor.
When did he leave?
He left approximately 2 weeks ago.
Where did he go?
Unknown.
You don't know where he went?
No, I don't.
Do you know where he went?
Yes, I do. He's living with his girlfriend and her family.
How old is he?
He's 20.
Did you have an argument with him?
Yes, I did.
Do you see your youngest son?
Yes, I do.
He comes over to visit?
He's called me numerous times in the last month and a half.
Has he come over to visit?
Yes, he has.
So there's not a problem with him?
Yes and no. I can't answer that. The reason is yes, there is a problem with him, but I am dealing with the problem.
Okay. Well, deal with this better. You're going to give your former wife $726 because you didn't do the right thing in having a car that you knew that she would not see the sign that you put in the window. You complied with the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law. The spirit of the law was that you notify the person whose car it is that if they don't move the car, you're going to have it towed. That's the spirit of the law. That's the substantive part of it. What you did with, you complied with the letter of it with full knowledge that she would never see that notice and therefore never be able to reclaim the car. Whether she wanted to reclaim it or not, she may not.
Can I interrupt? Your Honor, I have a statement here from the Department of Motor Vehicles stating that she had 15 days to convert the title over into her name. And if it was not done within 45 days, it is actually considered a misdemeanor.
Listen
and
to
she
me.
never did it. It is
Listen
still
to
at
me.
this date isn't.
Listen to me, sir. There was originally an agreement that I believe that your youngest son wanted the car. He took it, then he decided he didn't want it. The oldest son said, I want it. He brought the car to your... Listen to me. Your oldest son brought the car to your house. After a while, you said to him, I don't want it here, but he never did anything about it with taking it back to his mother. You knew the whole derivation of the story. It wasn't that she had the car towed to your house and left it there to annoy you. It was brought there by your children. That's how it got there, by your children. So don't show me things that are underlined that says she has 10 days or 15 days to convert it into her name. The idea was to let your kids have a car. And what you did was vindictive. Yeah, you have a counterclaim. You want her to pay $1 a day for storing the car for 122 days. That's ridiculous. You knew how it got there, and you should have done the right thing. You didn't. It's going to cost you $726 because I don't think she should be responsible for it. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think it's a bunch of baloney that she didn't follow the laws.
I hope this ends it all with this man.
It's just another win for a vindictive lady against me that she's been at me ever since the divorce.
I want nothing to do with him.
Electrician David Scheibel is suing his son's coach, Mark Lukowski Sr., for defamation of character and for filing false charges with the police. Mark is countersuing for emotional distress caused by David's continuing harassment.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 271 on the calendar in the matter of Scheibel versus Lukowski. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Mr. Scheibel, the defendant was your son's hockey coach, is that right?
Correct.
And it is your claim that he filed false charges against you, alleging certain threats of violence and harassment. You want to be compensated.
Correct.
The defendant says that whatever charges he filed against you were absolutely accurate, and he has a cross-complaint because he said that you have continued to harass him.
Correct.
How long has your son been in a hockey league, Mr. Scheibel?
It's going on probably 2 years now.
And how long has the defendant been his coach?
I believe this is the first year.
Had they had difficulty from the beginning?
It seemed like it started from I believe, the first game.
Well, tell me about it.
Something had happened on the bench, I'm not quite sure, and then he accused my son of saying vulgar words. And then after the game, my wife had confronted him about it.
You weren't there?
Yes, I was there, but I was at a different part of the ring.
So this is when the trouble started. So maybe you can tell me. What happened at the first game, if you remember?
Stephen Scheibel on my team was in the corner of the bench making gestures like this. I asked him if he was doing okay, and he said no. I thought he was ill. Therefore, he didn't go out the next few shifts. Another young man walked off the rink onto the bench and said to Stephen, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, he's sick." And he goes, "No, I'm not. F you." I turned to the other coach. I says, I was just cursed at again, which was several other times during practices as it happened.
This young man cursed at you other times?
Oh, yes, ma'am. This has been a constant problem with Stephen Scheibel, his behavior. We as coaches have took disciplinary action by benching him. And in this particular case, I was the one that went and approached Mr. and Mrs. Scheibel outside the rink to advise them of their child's behavior. I said to Mr. and Mrs. Scheibel, I want to let you know of an incident that took place, what their son had said to me. Mrs. Scheibel then called Stephen over and asked him if he said, "Did you say F you?" And Stephen said, "No, Mom."
So he lied?
Yes, ma'am. And then...
Sure you did.
And then Mrs. Scheibel started yelling at me, "Don't be making things about my son." And
So she's an idiot too?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey. Before we get to any claims of false charges, let me tell you exactly where I'm coming from so you understand. Usually, fathers who participate as coaches do so because they love the sport and they generally like children. So that I have to assume that the man standing before me is not a psychopath and that the reason he participates in the sport is because he likes children and he likes the sport. So if somebody in authority comes over to you and says to you, madam, your son's got a toilet mouth, you believe him. Yes, now you're saying yeah.
I did. I believed him. That's why I went and got my son.
And your son said, no, I didn't say it?
I said, you have to apologize to this man if you said that.
Stand up here. Yeah. Not if you said that. Not if you said that. How dare you open your mouth to him?
Right.
Because he just looked at me before and said, I didn't say that. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
You're a liar.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You may con her, but you don't con me because there's no reason for him to lie. You know how many punks like you I've seen in my life who have a fresh mouth? Tens of thousands. And the majority of the ones that continue to get in trouble come from parents who don't think that they do anything wrong, who blame somebody else. There shouldn't have been a question, did you say it? No, not did you say it. He said it. He lied to you, he lied to me. The only thing is, I call him. Now sit down. What happened afterwards?
Well, after we started taking disciplinary action against Stephen regarding other incidences, one was he punched another player on our bench in the stomach, completely disruptive, which led up to having him dismissed from the team. That's when all my problems started, Your Honor. I had death threats called to my house. I've had motorcycles show up in front of my house. Mr. Scheibel continually showed up at our games at 3 different facilities using profanity, and I'm not talking just trash talk. I'm talking vulgar words in front of all the children.
How many times did Mr. Scheibel show up at games where his son was not a participant? And give me the dates and the places.
13. I can go right through the dates, Your Honor, if you
Can
like.
you do that, please?
On August 4th.
Go ahead.
That's the time that Mr. Scheibel came after the other coach and I. On August 6th, he showed up at the Great Lakes Sports Facility in Fraser.
What were you doing there?
My son was supposed to be playing, and my son went down to the locker room, and the coach's wife, she had told him that he's no longer on the roster.
So did you stay or did you leave?
Well, I went down there to see what was going on, and she came up to me, and I told her, I said, why are you talking to me? You have a PPO out on me.
Who had a protective order against you?
Mark and the coach's wife, which I don't understand.
When was that issued, sir?
I believe it was 8/4 or 8 something.
The 8.
Can I see the protective order, please? All right, so now he knows that the kid's not on the team anymore. Now it's August 6th. If he ever knew
Actually,
before...
Your Honor, he had been advised the previous evening when...
Fine. I assume he knew the previous evening. He came down there just to test it. But when was the next time he showed up at a game?
On August 10th, he showed up at Joe Dumar's field house, a different facility that we were at. And
What were you doing there on the 10th, sir?
Was that the day, Stephen? Did he play?
Did he play on that date?
No, ma'am.
Was he scheduled to play?
No, ma'am.
What were you still doing involved with this hockey team, sir? Your son was kicked off the team because of his behavior. What were you still involved for?
He was still playing at this time.
Yeah, he wasn't kicked off yet. He technically was not kicked off until, I think it was August 12th.
Fine. After August 12th, did he show up at any game?
On the 12th, he showed up at Great Lakes Sports Facility in Fraser and threatened the other coach, his wife, and myself again.
What did he say when he showed up on the 12th?
He said that we better put his son back on the team. I haven't seen the end of him. I will pay. Basically, I don't know if it was this conversation. I better sleep with one eye open.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You said, my son better be back on this team or you better sleep with one eye open. That's a threat, and I believe you said it. Oh, yeah.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. David Scheibel says after an incident at a hockey game, his son's coach, Mark Lukowski Sr., filed false charges with the police. Mark says David threatened his life.
Now, on the 8th, there was a protective order issued. What was that based on?
Your Honor, I had received the threats, and he continually came to the facilities. I was for fear of my children and my family.
Okay.
I contacted an attorney. They advised me to go get a personal protection order.
Was that subsequently extended at any time?
No, Your Honor. They filed for motion for dismissal, and we went before the judge on August 26th. And at that case, the judge read Mr. Scheibel the Riot Act and advised him if he sees him in his courtroom one more time, he would be going straight to jail.
He has the minutes. Let me see the minutes.
Okay, great.
According to statute in your jurisdiction, statute requires 3 contacts that are unwanted after notice. He has to have notice. He does go on to say, now he's on notice. And if there's further contact with you or your son or your family, then you can come back to court. He was not happy with you. Judge is not happy with you. He didn't say he didn't believe what he told him. He said their statute requires 3 contacts. I don't know why it requires 3 contacts. 1 would seem to me to be sufficient. However, you have no right to come in and sue him. Absolutely none. If you put him in fear because of your conduct, then there is no question that by going to the games where you didn't belong, after your son was already on notice that there were problems, and you put yourself out there, he had a right to say, I feel threatened, and I'm afraid, and go to court and seek a protective order so that you would stay away from him. And the protective order is very simple, Mr. Scheibel. It says you're prevented from assaulting, attacking, beating, or molesting him, which you shouldn't do anyway. Interfering with petitioner at his employment, education, or engaging in conduct which impairs petitioner's employment or education, you can't do that anyway. Harassing him, approaching or confronting him in a public place or on private property, you're not to do that anyway. But it also says you're not to appear at his workplace or residence. They've laid those things out. The first part of this protective order prohibits you from doing what the law proscribes anyway. So what's your complaint?
He has no proof that I did all these lies.
I believe him. Oh, I believe him.
Well, I called
believe
his
that
house and made fire threats?
No. I'm discounting that. The court discounted that. I read what they said. They asked him, do you have any proof that he was the one who made those threatening calls? And he said no. I'm discounting that. I am not discounting the fact that you said, my son better be back on this team or you better sleep with one eye open. That's a threat. And I believe you said it. Oh, yeah.
No, I didn't.
Oh, yes, I believe you said it. Because I don't believe that somebody who gives up their time to coach a hockey team with children wants to be confrontational.
He's had 3 children walk off this team crying.
So
and
what?
now they're all on my team.
Good for you. I hope your son doesn't curse you.
If he had lied to one time, what says he didn't lie again?
What do you mean if he lied once? When did he lie?
About the motorcycles?
No. He didn't lie about that, sir. Listen to me very carefully. What he testified in front of me was that right after your son was dismissed from the team, he started to get threats. He started to get phone calls. Motorcycles started coming around his house. That's what he testified before me. He didn't say he saw you on the motorcycle. He didn't say he did the threats. He said it was coincidental. I'm discounting all of that, sir. I'm saying I believe him when he says that you said you better put my son back on the team or you better sleep with one eye open or you haven't heard the last of this. That's enough of a threat. Now, let's get to your counterclaim. I'll hear it.
Okay, Your Honor. On August 24th, my son Eric was playing a hockey game in the town that Mr. Scheibel resides in. At that time, Mr. Scheibel volunteered to be the scorekeeper during that game. At that time, he started making harassing comments to my son while he was playing hockey. A police report was filed and made, and intimidation and stalking was the offense. And I have a copy of that if you'd like to see it.
I'll look at the police report.
This was the day prior to going back to the PPO hearing. At that time, my son had to discontinue playing hockey at that place. He had made the...
Just a minute. Do you have copies of any of the emails that you allege that Mr. Scheibel sent to your son?
No, Your Honor, I do not. I was called while I was out of town that Mr. Scheibel had sent an email to my son, Eric, and basically it was a non-threatening one, although an intimidating one, by indicating...
I just asked you if he had copies of the emails, sir. I didn't ask for an explanation.
No, I don't.
Mr. Scheibel, did you ever approach one John Savage with regard to your son being thrown off the team?
The father? Yes.
John?
I don't know his name, but I believe that's his name, yes.
And when you approached him, your husband was around?
No.
You went back to where your husband was seated after you spoke to Mr. Savage?
Correct.
And your husband cursed at Mr. Savage?
Yes. I was crying at that time.
Your husband cursed at Mr. Savage?
Yes, correct.
And you told your husband to be quiet?
Possibly.
And that's because he was behaving badly?
Well, I do not like cursing, period.
Step up, Eric. Eric, I want you to tell me what it was that Mr. Scheibel said or did to you that frightened you.
When I was skating by him, he would always go, "I'm over here, Eric. Come over here, Eric."
Is there any reason for that, sir? Is there any reason you were calling his name at hockey games?
I wasn't.
Why do you think he would say that you did?
I don't know, Your Honor.
Could it possibly be that because his father had a protective order against you, that you felt as if he could get his goat by making his son feel uncomfortable?
No.
You would never do that.
No, I wouldn't.
You're not a hothead.
He has tried to provoke me.
No, you're not a
yes.
hothead, is what I said.
No, I'm not.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
He's talking about approaching his son. He walked by my son and said, "My son is going to kick your ass."
Bad behavior.
Very bad behavior.
Very bad behavior.
I also have a police report, too, Your Honor, that he has implicated my husband, my son, and another member in stealing, larceny from a building. We've been approached by people. "Oh, you're the people that have the PPO against you. Oh, you're the people that, stole tiles." He is just spreading rumor after rumor after rumor.
Well, the part about the protective order, that's not a rumor.
But, that was all based on lies, too, Your
No,
Honor.
it wasn't. No.
Phone calls?
Did you... Listen, are you not hearing me?
You said
are you not hearing me?
You were ignoring this, correct?
Are you not hearing me? I said to you, if somebody says you better sleep with one eye open or I'm going to get you, that's enough for a protective order, and I believe your husband said that to him. And I'm not interested in phone calls because he says he doesn't really know who made them. That's what he told the judge. He said, it just so happens that coincidentally, after Potty Mouth over here was dismissed from the team, he started to get all of these telephone call hang-ups. Now, it could have been your son, it could have been his friends, it could have been somebody else, it could have been your husband. Who knows? Maybe it was you. All I know is that from what I've read, stop flipping, what I've read, your husband's got a toilet mouth sufficient for you to have said to him, "Sit down," in a public place because he cursed at another coach in front of children. Yes, and you had to say to him, "Sit down."
Okay, I realize, but Mr. Lukowski is saying this all happened after they removed my son from the team, which that is not true.
I don't care if it happened before or after or less tish above. Doesn't make any difference. Your case is dismissed. Period. End of discussion. As far as you're concerned, sir, I want to know if you think that you did everything right.
Yes, Your Honor, I did. I have the code of conduct that I have to sign as a coach.
Don't give me code of conduct.
And
I don't want to have code of conduct. I'm not talking about dismissing him. I think if he opened up a mouth to you once, get rid of him. If his father's prepared to tolerate that because that's the kind of language his father uses, that's the kind of adult he'll grow up to be. But his mother says that you said something to him.
that is totally not true, Your Honor. I would never. I've coached hockey for 7 years, year-round, with 400 to 450 children under my direction and never had any problems. I'm there for the kids. There's no way I would intimidate a young man.
Well, let's see who heard this. Did you hear it?
No, my son.
Maybe I'll believe him if he says something that's truthful. Get up here. Tell me about a conversation or a statement that your former coach said to you after you had stopped playing ball.
Well, I was there to sub for another team, and I was standing there watching the other game. He looked at me and he's like, "Well, my son's going to kick your..." Then he walked over to where his son was playing, like he was going to tell him.
And what did you do when he said that to you?
I just kind of stood there and went over to the locker room so I can get dressed.
You mean dressed to play?
Yeah.
And did you play?
Yeah.
Did anything happen at the game?
No, not really.
Your Honor, I do recall this instance and situation, although what I did is my son was playing in a different league. I said to my wife, I'm going to go watch Mark kick some butt, and I walked over to the other rink to watch my oldest son play. I made no reference to Stephen Scheibel, never would.
Maybe he heard it and took it as directed to him.
I would never say anything like that.
Maybe. All right, listen, go home. Both of you, go home. What?
Well, after he kicked me off the team, a couple games during the playoffs, he let me play again.
So? It means he's a nice guy. I wouldn't have let you play again. He opened up a big, fresh toilet mouth to me, and you would have been in another jurisdiction, another state.
Your Honor,
Just a second. That didn't require an answer. What I'm trying to get through to him is his mother may believe that he never said the words that he said to you. He learned them at home. He sees that they're commonplace. If his father can say it, he can say it. There's no question his father said it because his mother said his father said it. If I asked his father would have probably denied it, just like his son did. It's a game. It's a game. It's a game. Goodbye.
Well, it just seems like you can lie and just keep getting away with it.
This set of parents did not accept the behavior of their child.
The worst part is over, probably, I guess.
I noticed that the father was behaved the same way.
We teach our children how to act.
I just don't think it's right that he can get away with like threatening me and like telling me to come over and do stuff, which made me definitely afraid of him.
Be fair.
Act in a responsible manner.
Be kind and be honest.
No longer is there going to be any type of behavior like this with profanity.
All the kids are like, why isn't Steven playing? He's like, well, he said you didn't feel good.
Or threats towards coaches is going to be tolerated.
What I said is, I said I didn't effing say that.
Respect the coach that's coaching you.
Check out your coach. Really good before you play.
When you go out and play hockey, just play hockey.
Rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2036, Carter versus Ashley.
Thank you. Welcome. Your sisters, is that correct?
Yes.
You decided, according to your complaint, to go into a business, some sort of a doggy daycare. In what month and year did you decide to go into that business?
This year, 2 months ago, May.
Do you have any dogs of your own?
Yes.
How many?
I have a poodle and 2 pits.
And you?
I have 4 pit bulls.
Did they all live in your home?
They did, yes.
They did?
Yes.
The two of you decided to go into this alleged business and needed some space, according to you, and went to the defendant who was renting a house. Is that right, Mr. Ashley?
No, it's not a house.
What is it?
It's a building.
What kind of building?
It's a commercial building.
Okay. On this commercial building lot, there's a backyard or a back
yes.
empty space, and it's an open space with a fence.
Yes.
So it's not a home.
No.
What arrangements did you make with the Carter sisters to rent them that space?
I made arrangement with Deborah Carter.
May I see? Deborah Carter.
Correct.
That's you.
Yes.
When for the first time did you meet Deborah?
I think it was around the 4th of June.
And she wanted to bring some dogs onto your property.
Correct.
How many dogs did she want to bring on your property?
She didn't tell me. She told me she had a kennel. And when I got there and she had the dogs there in 2 cages, it was 7 dogs, 7 pit bulls.
In cages?
And yes, and they're there today.
They're still there?
Yes.
May I see them, please?
I don't have them, and I didn't know what to get together.
Okay, I'd like to see what pictures you have, sir.
Yeah. This is the 30-day notice that I've given them, and those are the pictures where she damaged.
Miss Carter, sometime after June of this year, did you place dogs in this fenced-in open space in cages?
Yes.
Loud. You hear the way I'm talking?
Yes.
And how many dogs did you place in the cages?
At that time, it was 7.
7 adult dogs?
No, there's 3 adults and 4 puppies or 5.
How old were the puppies?
They were...
Easier. This is going to get harder, Miss Carter. So the 7 dogs that you... Stop playing with your papers. The 7 dogs that you placed in the cages were your dogs?
Mine's my sister's and another friend.
How many were yours? You had 4 pit bulls.
Mm-hmm.
Were your 4 pit bulls there?
Yes.
Yes, that's a yes. So you're 4. Your sister has 2 pit bulls. Were her... Look at me. Your sister has 2 pit bulls. Were her 2 pit bulls there?
Yes.
So that's 6. And somebody else had 1.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the person who had 1?
They're not here. It's a friend. We were watching their dog. They
okay,
have a
so
dog.
you put your 4 pit bulls, your sister's 2 pit bulls, and a friend's pit bull in 2 cages.
No.
How many cages?
There are 4 cages, but...
Okay, I'd like to see pictures of the 4 cages. There you go.
And that's just to separate them.
Your Honor, when she...
By 6.
Shh. Just a second. Prior to meeting the defendant, where did you keep your 4 pit bulls?
In the yard at my home.
Was it in the backyard that you kept the 4 pit bulls?
Yeah, they had space in the backyard, but they stayed in the house. And then when it's time to do their thing, they go outside. They stayed in the house in the living room.
So they were house dogs?
Yes.
And what about your 2 pit bulls?
I stayed in the front house. They stayed in the house with me.
On what date did you bring your pit bulls to the yard? June 4th?
June 6th.
6'6". And you paid him for a month. Is that right?
Yes.
How much did you pay him for the month?
$500.
And the 3 puppies that were 6 months old, what did you intend to do with those?
We had people that wanted them. We were supposed to move.
Just a second. Were they yours or hers? Who did the 3 puppies belong to?
Me.
They belong to you. So don't speak for her.
Okay.
Good.
I've been speaking for all my life.
I don't care what you've been doing all your life. Right now, I'm getting answers to someone who may or may not be swift enough or savvy enough not to tell me the truth. Did you ever have more than 7 dogs in the yard?
No.
Okay, to you. And what you're suing him for is you say because of him, you lost your kennel business where you want, well, that's what it says here. You lost your kennel business.
Daycare.
What?
It's
a dog daycare.
There's no dog daycare. They were your dogs.
No, we were supposed to be inside. We were only supposed to be outside for a week. The business is a business, like you said. It has a storefront. It has a middle section. The storefront is where we take the small dogs. When you come in, we'll greet you, assess it, bring in the small dogs. If you have bigger dogs, he has a middle section. We were supposed to split the building in half.
And
he never cleaned the inside of the building. We had to go in there, power wash it ourselves. We bought our own paint. We were only supposed to be outside for 2 weeks until his people cleaned the inside for us.
Okay. Is that what you were supposed to do?
No, Your Honor, they are lying.
Okay.
The building was a motorcycle shop. They ain't brought no paint. They ain't cleaned nothing in it. It's still not clean.
Okay.
And
were
they didn't have no money.
Just a second. How much in total did they give you for rent?
$500.
Is that correct?
Yes.
For the first
Just
month.
a second. Did you give him any more than $500?
No.
Did you have any other dogs other than your 6 dogs and somebody else's 1 pit bull ever on the premises?
No.
No, don't speak. I'm speaking to her. So whatever business you were, your investment in this business was $500.
No. I worked for him May 25th to June 1st. I cleaned out 25 refrigerators.
I don't care. That's not in here.
That was a pay. Yes, it is.
She ain't work for me.
Just a second.
I sent it to you guys.
Just a second. Miss Carter, there is absolutely nothing here that says that you worked for him and he owes you for that.
Well,
let me tell you what your complaint states. Your complaint says money owed for sabotaging a business, vet bills because one of your dogs was injured, and
I'm not saying
actual and punitive damages for assault. That's what you're claiming.
I'm just saying that I cleaned those appliances. He said that that was a payment for rent. So that was for the second month of rent. It was $500.
Just a second.
He was supposed to pay me every day, but I just told him to put it towards the rent.
Okay.
And that's what we agreed to. So the first, some of them.
Get them off his property.
Why is that?
It's not
It's
his
over.
property.
Very easy. You want to keep dogs in a cage like this? I can't control that. I am certainly not putting a judicial imprimatur on keeping dogs, and I don't care what breed they are, in cages in a backyard. So what I'm telling you this is you have 24 hours to get your dogs off that property. Get them off. He's going to get an order from a marshal. And if your dogs aren't off that property, they're going to the pound.
So
do you understand?
Why is that?
I want you to understand. I want you to understand my order, because now we're in August. You started this whole process in June. I'm finishing it before it gets too mucky. Get your dogs off the property. We understand each other?
Why is that?
Why? What did we do? We paid. We
like
did
the
everything.
No. You paid him for 1 month in June.
But
You paid him in 1 month in June. We are now in August. This is a marriage that's not going to go well. Get your dogs off his property, and then you don't have to deal with them anymore. Do you understand?
It's not his
No,
property.
I don't understand. You don't understand that
if it's not his property, then what are you suing him for?
Because he's the one who stabbed me.
Oh, just
And
a
he's the
second.
one who-
Just a second. So if we're eliminating money owed for sabotaging a business, and if you're suing him for assault, then I'll hear your assault. Then I don't have to hear any of the things about the dogs. So all I'm going to hear about is the assault. Tell me what happened. You were assaulted. That's what you want to tell me.
Yes, July 5th, we had came. My witness, if she could speak, she had certain...
No, she wasn't assaulted, right?
Yes.
Okay.
She was assaulted first, actually. She's the first one he swung on.
Okay. Step up. July 5th. Your name is what?
Priscilla Walker.
You don't own any of these dogs, do you?
No, ma'am.
What were you doing on the property on the 5th of July?
I sometimes go and help them with the dogs, clean up and feed the dogs.
And those dogs that were there, they were there for at least a month from June 4th to July 5th.
Correct.
They're 6 pit bulls.
Correct.
Right? That used to be, according to them, in the backyard or in their homes, right? Them to take these house dogs that were in their homes and in their backyard if they had to relieve themselves, don't speak, and move them into cages in a backyard in a commercial building. I want you to tell me that.
Your Honor, that wasn't the intent. They moved the dogs for a bigger space because they're entrepreneurs and they wanted to start a business.
Just a second, it's not their business. Business is starting a business with somebody else's dogs, not your dogs. They wanted to start a doggy, uncross your arms. They wanted to start, according to them, a doggy daycare. Mm-hmm. That I understand. But you don't start a doggy daycare by taking your dogs that are house dogs and putting them in cages in somebody else's backyard.
Why not?
Or somebody else's space.
Your Honor, that's not necessarily true. We're millennials. When you're boosting a business, you want to use yourself and what you have as advertisement. And that's what they did. So the other dog that they did have was a friend, and the friend was actually paying for that dog to stay there. So it did deem it a business at that time.
You still haven't answered my question as to why their 6 pit bulls were in cages when they were formerly house dogs for a month.
Your Honor, the gentleman over here to my left did not allow them they didn't have access to what they paid for.
Just a second. Are you telling me that for a month they didn't have access for the dog? You just told me that you would go there and help them clean up.
To the inside of the building that was promised
I'm not
to them?
talking about the inside of the building.
Okay.
And the
pay clear.
We got the whole yard.
Pay careful.
Junkyard on his side.
The building.
They're not hearing all of you, and you're not answering my question. The 3 of you went there for what purpose on July 5th?
To feed and clean up after the dogs.
How'd you spend the weekend with them?
I was
not speaking to you.
Denise and Deborah Carter claim their former landlord, Charles Ashley, broke an agreement to store their dogs. They also claim he assaulted them. Charles claims he was the one who was assaulted.
Okay, if I was starting a doggy daycare business and I had house dogs, my little Shih Tzus, running around the house where they have been for years, I would not take them and put them in cages in a back vacant lot in order to they stayed in your house.
I said they slept in the house, in a cage, in an area.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I'm saying. I don't understand how you could take your pets.
But they stayed outside.
Because we were offering other things. We wanted to have one.
All right, let's get to the assault. I'm not interested in this. Now.
Your Honor, I have the lease here. I'm paying the owner $4,000 a month.
He lied to the loaner and said he wasn't going to do any sublease, and he subleased.
The only thing I'm interested in is the only thing I'm interested in is the assault. So Priscilla, don't speak. The 3 of you went there for what purpose on July 5th?
To feed and clean up after the dogs.
Okay, and you had done that before?
Yes.
And when you got there on July 5th, was that over a holiday weekend?
Yes, it was.
It was a Tuesday.
It was a Tuesday, so July 4th was on a Monday.
Yeah.
How'd you spend the weekend with them? I'm not speaking to you. Had you spent the weekend with them?
No. Yeah.
Okay, you say yes, she says no. I'm not asking you a question. Do you understand? So you spent July 4th.
Go ahead.
You spent July 4th with them. Is either yes or no?
No.
When did you meet them on July 5th?
Around the morning.
Around what time?
11 a.m.
You're asking me with a question. 11? I don't know if it was 11. I'm asking you.
11 a.m.
Did you have a discussion with them?
Regarding
the dogs, what you were going to do that day?
Of course, we always have discussions about what we're going to do.
Okay. When you spoke to Deborah, did you ask her when she had last seen the dogs?
No.
No, you did not.
Deborah, prior to July 5th, when had you last seen the dogs?
July 4th.
What time?
It was about 5 o'clock. I was in there, cleaned them up. He came, locked me in for 4 hours.
Okay, so on July 4th, you were in there feeding the dogs.
Yeah.
And July 5th, you went back in the morning again to feed the dogs. Uh-huh is not an answer.
Yeah.
Now, tell me what happened when you got there on July 5th.
On July 5th, when we went inside to feed the dogs, I went to go turn on the water hose, and I noticed that Ben, I believe they both stepped in. When they stepped in, there was like verbal altercation.
So when they stepped in, you heard that there was someone else in the building?
Yeah.
Okay, and that would have been you, sir?
Yes.
On the 5th?
Yes, me and another friend of mine.
Okay, and what were you doing in the building on July 5th?
It was about 6 o'clock that evening. My friend came by the house. He's a general contractor, and I'm renovating the building to set it up for business. So I said, come on, let me take you up here, show you the building. I need your help. We get up there. I open the gate, go in, leave the gate unlocked, and we walk through the building. When I come around, they are in the building.
All three of them or just one?
All three of them.
Had you turned the water off to the
No.
hose outside?
No.
Do you
I used
know?
to water the dogs when they didn't come because they'd be barking so, and the neighbors next door, I just moved in, Your Honor. I don't want to make no enemies. That's why I told them I'm not taking no more rent from you. Get the dogs out.
Okay.
I tell them you trespass.
Just a second. So now you went inside, or the Carter sisters went inside.
Yeah, I said
You
that.
heard some noise. Did you go into the building?
Yes.
Okay. And what happened when you went into the building?
When I went into the building, he immediately got very frustrated and said, "What are you guys doing here? Why are you here? You need to get off my property, get off my property." They're like, "We paid you. We have an agreement." And next thing you know, he pushed Deborah Carter. He pushed her. And then that's when Denise Carter got in the middle and said, "No, you're not. Don't put your hands on my sister." The situation ensued. The gentleman that was inside stopped everything and walked him out of the building. And as he's walking him out of the building, and we're walking out behind him so that we can try to figure out what's going on with the water, he slams her foot in the door and tries to lock her in and pushes her. And that's when they started pushing on the door, because at this point he's trying to lock them in.
Lock them in the building?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
When they actually, the gentleman stopped him and the door opened, I seen what type of altercation it was. I didn't want anything to do with it. I'm like,
so at that point, nobody was injured?
No.
Okay, so now you're outside.
Now we're outside.
Okay, and you're outside in the back area where the dogs are.
Correct.
Tell me what happened next.
So as we're walking, I'm walking fast because I noticed that he's walking fast, and I'm like, "You're not about to lock me in here. You already just tried to lock them in there."
You mean lock?
He tried to close it. It was just an altercation, a verbal altercation started. He didn't like what was said. I was on the left-hand side.
Tell me what the altercation was.
Everything was said about the business, that they were going to speak to the owner, that, he still owed them money if he wanted them to move out for the rest of the month, that he could just give them the money or whatever and they'll leave. It wasn't a problem.
By the way, I am looking at your lease, and you did lease the premises from June of 2022 to May 31st, 2025 at a monthly rent of $4,000. Are you still paying rent to the owner of the building?
Yes, ma'am.
You have to remove your dogs there.
He's not paying rent. He has an eviction notice too. He owes $4,000. I have a picture of it.
He's lying.
He hasn't paid rent.
When was
Nothing
he
else
hasn't
he's
paid
saying
rent
is true.
this month or last month. He got the eviction last month on the 11th.
Okay. Right now, he has not been evicted from the property. Is that correct, or have you?
Right.
I just paid him yesterday.
Why did you say you?
Just a second. Oh, I'm asking a simple question. I have before me, ladies, pay attention. I have before me a lease that gives him 3/4 of the building and the backyard. Until he's evicted, until this lease is deemed void, you have to remove your dogs within 24 hours of today.
Why?
I am evicting you with a marshal tomorrow. Get your dogs out of there.
Denise and Deborah Carter have accused their former landlord, Charles Ashley, of breaking their agreements and assaulting them. Charles claims Denise and Deborah attacked him first.
Okay, we're going to get back to this assault because I have other things to do today. You're outside. The gate that he's tried to cross has opened up again. And
he got really angry. He was saying a lot of curse words, you know, you need to remove all your, you know what, if you don't remove it, I'm gonna remove it for you type stuff. And after that, he swung with his right hand and it connected with my face. After that, he started punching on all of us, so we had to defend ourselves and fight back.
And then an altercation got started and everybody was fighting with everyone.
No.
What about you? Deborah, were you hit by the defendant?
Yes, I was.
Where were you hit by the
defendant? My face and my foot. No pictures, and I didn't go to the doctor. I self-healed.
Good. And what about you, Miss Carter? Where were you hit?
Doctor. I had to go to the ER because I had to get stitches. I had 9 stitches.
Okay. Well, tell me about the stitches. That's what I want to know. How did the cut that required the stitches take place?
When he was attacking us, he was swinging on me, and he had a blade in his hand, and I thought he was punching me, but really when I was blocking myself, he was taking...
That was the second occurrence, because after the first one, we tried to leave the situation. He was upset and put out a knife.
We thought we were leaving, yeah.
With
he
the
just
knife.
came back with the knife, and
now I'd like to see the records.
Here's the knife records, and then here's the police records on when he was arrested, and that's just like my stitches and what doctor I went to and like my medication.
Okay. Now I'm going to take a look. Okay, Mr. Ashley, the only thing that I actually want to know about from you is there's no question in my mind that the plaintiff did not cut herself. No question. I want to know how she got cut.
I don't know, Your Honor. I didn't even have a wallet on me. I'm 75 years old. I wouldn't even argue with her. I went to the back door, the gate, and they had a trash can where they had propped it open. So I went to move the trash can, and that's when this one hit me and knocked me down. And when I was coming up, Deborah hit me in the head with a 2x4, and blood just went everywhere.
Did you go to the doctor?
Yes.
I'd like to see your report.
It's in the record.
Your Honor, I have a video of what happened. I could just solve this right now.
Oh, I'd like to see it.
Okay.
Do you have it through the assault? I'm just interested in the assault.
It's just the assault.
Just the assault.
Yeah, it's just press
I'd like
play
to
right
see it.
here. Okay, if you press play, you'll see him slamming us out.
I don't see any assault.
Well, yeah, but I tell you, my phone fell out the hand.
Well, then don't show me what I can't see. All I know is he has medical records that he received 5 staples in the top of his head on that date.
That's
and
exactly
all
what
that
happened.
wood behind him, he fell on that
Shush.
stuff.
Listen to me. Blunt head trauma, which is what the emergency,
yourself down.
Okay.
You attacked us.
You
You're
have-
attacking us and
It's okay.
Listen to me.
It's okay.
Listen to me carefully.
All right.
You have now sit. You have 24 hours to get your dogs out of that yard. You want to show me pictures of a trash-strewn yard? That's not where I would keep my precious house dogs for an hour. So get your dogs out of there 24 hours from today.
How do I counter that?
This is not a dance party. I'm ruling now. 24 hours, remove your dogs. You have nothing left to do with him. He wants you gone. I want you gone. I want those dogs out of the cages on that property, and I want them gone within 24 hours. Now, there's no question, Mr. Ashley, that both of you were injured in that altercation. No question. All I'm asking is, subsequent to your arrest, did you have a hearing?
No, Your Honor, I have it right here. They rejected the case.
May I see it?
They wouldn't even hear it.
They rejected it. Did you have a hearing?
They didn't tell me about anything.
They didn't tell you about anything. Well, that's because they rejected the case. Okay, I'm telling you, because I'm issuing an order, I'm giving it to you. You're the lawful tenant of the building. You can take it to a marshal, take it to the sheriff. Those dogs have to be out of there within 24 hours. We're done here.
This court is adjourned.
You know, it is what it is.
I thought it was a good decision. It was the truth.
He has no consequences. It just is the reason why you don't believe in the judicial system.
I'm not going to be renting out to them no more, and I'm not going to rent to nobody.
I think that it's so cruel to keep 7 dogs in small crates, day, night.
Especially in a commercial building, open lot.
People shouldn't have dogs that do that. There should be a license required to own a dog, not necessarily to be a dog, but to own another living creature. I don't know what kind of mind would think that it's fair to keep a living creature in a filthy,
dusty
equipment.
Mr. David, your claim that the defendant has acoustical equipment that you purchased for what looks to be a joint venture in Mr. Borum's music podcast.
Yes, ma'am.
You were making this music podcast in the basement of your house?
Yes, Your Honor.
Starting in what year?
This year of March.
And Mr. David, you were friends, you knew each other, and you knew he was in this business. I don't know, what is your business?
I deliver bread. I'm a bread vendor.
What kind of interest do you have in music? Because that's what he was doing.
Well, me and Jonathan have known each other for 20 years.
Jonathan and I have known each other.
Jonathan and I have known each other for 20 years, and he's always been in the music scene. He's an artist himself.
Well, that's what I gather. What about you?
I was just a supportive friend in it.
Okay, well, clearly you spent some money on music equipment, so it was more than being a supportive friend. If you were just being a supportive friend, then you made a gift to him of this music equipment.
No, ma'am.
You decided you wanted to be part of this music podcast. That's what you said.
Correct.
When did you make that decision?
Sometime mid-June after I had...
June of this year?
This year, correct. I had received a small amount of money, and I was invest and help out and help a friend and be able to invest into something that if we blew up one day, I could receive, royalties from and money back in return. And
did you have a written agreement with him?
We did not have a written agreement.
Well, I'd like to know what the agreement was.
So he was also in the car accident with me as well. And so he's got a settlement coming. He told me, this was all verbal, that once he received that money, he would pay me back at least half of the equipment.
So you would have a joint venture and he would pay you for half the equipment you purchased?
This was at the beginning, correct.
Do you remember, Mr. Borum, that conversation?
No, ma'am, Your Honor.
Were you in the automobile accident with him?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
You did not receive a settlement. Is there any reason?
We're still going through the court process.
Okay, so you're going to trial.
Actually, that's what it was set to go.
You indicate what you want is your equipment back.
No, I'd like the money back.
No, well, you get your equipment back. If it's yours.
I want the money. I don't trust that he will give me the equipment back in good condition.
Let me explain this to you, Mr. David. If that's what you want, then I'm going to let you withdraw this case and go back to small claims court. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? I'm going to dismiss your case without prejudice, which will allow you to go back to your small claims court, or do you wish to proceed with it today?
I wish to proceed.
Great.
Joseph David claims his former friend, Jonathan Borum, is wrongfully keeping his podcast equipment.
So, when you decided to enter this, according to you, agreement, that you would be in a joint venture, when he got his money, he would pay in his half of what the equipment costs, which you indicate, I think, is about $4,400.
Correct.
What I gather is there was a session set up that was supposed to take place in your basement.
Yes, ma'am.
And when was that? Is there, Mr. Borum, a dispute about what equipment he purchased?
Is there a dispute? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, because he has a receipt. I just want to know if I have to go into this.
Well, on the receipt, he purchased it on his card, but we're friends. We were going in together, so he bought it on his card because he had the money.
Oh, just a second. I understand that, Mr. Borum. I'm asking you whether there is an agreement as to what the pieces he purchased on his card.
Yes, ma'am. As far as the agreement, I'm not understanding the question.
Okay. What pieces of equipment did he buy that's in your basement?
Cameras.
Camera.
Cords.
Cord.
And probably the Black Magic.
Black Magic?
Black Magic, yes, ma'am. It's a device that works.
Do you know what he's talking about?
I do.
Anything else that's down there that you purchased other than those 3 items?
Yes, ma'am. In total...
What? Shh, look at me. Tell me what else.
In total, there's 2 Panasonic cameras.
Are there 2 cameras
Yes,
that he
ma'am.
purchased? 2 cameras.
Can I look it down?
How many?
It's a set of 2.
Did he purchase those?
Yes, ma'am. And not to correct you, but we purchased those.
No, you didn't pay for it.
I gave him the money. I gave him cash.
Oh, you did? Well, you're going to show me proof of that in a moment.
Well, I don't have proof that I gave him cash. No, ma'am. Because we were friends, so...
Just a second.
Okay.
You have no proof? Did he give you cash?
No, ma'am. He never gave me $1.
Fine.
Not a penny.
Okay, let's go. We have 3 lights, 2 mics. What else?
HDMI cord.
He has a cord.
Blackmagic ATEM.
He has that.
256 gigabyte SD card.
What is that?
It was
Memory card.
It's a $50 memory card. It adds up.
Let's go.
The card reader, 20-foot cables, a stencil, and a table.
Just a second. A stencil and a table. Describe that.
It's for the logo that we made for the podcast. I purchased the stencil for the logo.
How much did you pay for that?
Between that and the table is $80.
Let's stay with the big ticket items, sir, Henry.
I was adding
Great.
everything.
Okay. Are we finished with the list?
Yep, that's all.
Very good. How much did you pay for these things minus the $50 card in total? Show me.
Minus the $50.
Yeah.
$43.50.
Sessions scheduled. Your daughter had COVID.
Yes, ma'am.
She lives on top of the house. Okay. And how old is she?
That was in July. She's 10 months now, so probably about 8 months.
Okay. And she's cared for by both you and your wife. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And I gather, Mr. David, that when you found out that there was COVID in the house, you didn't want to go into the basement.
Correct.
And that was sometime in June.
Correct.
Okay, can you tell me about that conversation?
Well, he told me that she had COVID, and then he said that his fiance may possibly have it, and he may possibly have it. He even took off work, and I filled in for him at work for 3 days because he may have had COVID or not, and he said he wasn't
Well, he
feeling
wasn't. He didn't want to go in and risk it.
Correct. So I told him I do not want to continue with this interview. He said he would continue on.
You mean
with
the
it.
interview that was supposed to take place in the
Correct.
basement?
Correct.
How much after, Mr. David, did you find out that the infant had COVID and that Mr.
Days, ma'am.
And when Mr. David told you he didn't feel comfortable coming into the house, what did you say to him?
I said, okay, I would have someone else fill in his position because I understood why he didn't want to come over.
Okay, and did you have someone fill in his position?
Yes, ma'am.
And then what happened, Mr. Bourne?
The episode got done, and it wasn't up to par with Joseph's standards. So that's when the argument begun.
Okay, and the argument was what?
The argument was the guy didn't do it right, so it was a lot of bickering. So I told Joe, I just do the editing myself. And he took that as I was cutting him out.
Okay, so he was supposed to do the editing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and why did you say, I'll do the editing myself?
Because he was yelling at me, and I told him...
What was he yelling at you about?
Because he said that the product wasn't up to par. He said...
Just a second, Mr. Borum, this is your business.
Right.
Will you tell me, did you think the product was up to par?
I did, but I thought it was up to par, but I took his recommendation because I brought him in for production. So I was like, okay, if you don't feel like it's up to par, let's figure it out. But then we kept going back and forth. So at that moment, I was like, you know what? I'll just do it myself so we can stop the confrontation. Because you didn't want to tell the guy what he did wrong. So then that's when the argument started, and he thought that I was kicking him out, which I never told.
This equipment. And Mr. Borum, I want to see where you took out $2,200 from in cash. I want to see where you took. You said you paid him half.
$2,200. I didn't pay half.
Well, what'd you pay?
I never stated that I
Just
paid half.
shh. If you're partners, that's what you have to pay. How much did you give him?
I gave him money here and there, like on all the...
That doesn't help. That doesn't help me, sir. That doesn't help me. These are bank statements.
I didn't think I had to keep a record if we was best friends for 15 years. That's just...
I can't help you, sir. I can't help you if you say you paid a little bit here and there. I can't help you with that.
Never gave me a dime.
So when you state that if you're a friend, you're doing this to help me out as a gift for what I got going on,
a gift.
And then you try to bring it and take it back from me.
Mr. Borum, how many podcasts have you made since June?
Since June?
Yeah. So far, seen any profit?
Not as now, because you gotta build up.
Just a second. So not as of yet.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
Does your wife work?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you have two incomes in the house.
Right.
And this is a side job for you.
Correct.
But you have to buy your own equipment because he's coming to get his equipment. That's going to be the court's order.
So if
it's his equipment. It's his equipment. The equipment
so he can't
that
gift it to me. That's what he told me he was doing because we was friends. And he appreciated what I was doing.
This is why we're here.
Right.
And now I heard you and I heard him, and now I'm ruling. I am making an order that he, within 5 days of today, with a marshal or a sheriff, will come and pick up his equipment.
So he's giving him my equipment back. I'm
giving him his equipment back.
But he never used it, though.
I don't care whether he used it or not. It was a failed business venture where you both expect.
It's not a business venture.
This is not a tea dance. He's getting back his equipment. You and your wife have a side business going. Go buy equipment. Do you understand? 5 days, wait outside. You'll get a copy of my order. You can go get your equipment.
And they gonna change.
I mean, I thought I had a good friend for a while, but really...
Man, the show gonna go on, man. Y'all know, make sure y'all watch, tune in.
I was just tolerating a really bad person.
I've had understandings with my friends similar to what the plaintiff and defendant has, one of my friends will stay in my apartment from time to time for a few nights. And I always make sure, because you never want a holdover tenant or a friend staying longer than you had anticipated. And I'll text and I'll say, okay, you're good to stay there Thursday and Friday night. Let me know if there's any problems, but you got to be gone by 9 a.m. on Saturday. Just to memorialize the understanding that I think I have, even with friends. It's just always smart to have some sort of record of a business, an understanding, a trade-off. I just think that it's good practice to, even if it's just a text, something to memorialize what you believe the understanding to be.
I agree with you. Yeah. And that would make my job easy. But what a lies. Have a seat, please.
Case 2109, Noble versus Acuna.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Noble, this is your sister.
Yes, ma'am.
Older or younger?
Younger.
Any other siblings?
Many.
How many?
I have 5 sisters and 4 brothers.
And you have kids. How many children do you have?
I have 3 daughters.
How old are they?
18, 15, and almost 12.
And you?
I have 3 children, and they are 10, 5, and 2.
There came a time when, that was in August of 2021, according to your complaint, that you were having some housing difficulties with your children.
No, that's not true.
Well, Miss Noble, what led you to believe that your sister was having some housing difficulty? Because you start your complaint by indicating that she was about to become homeless.
Her house that she was living in was being put up for sale.
So the house that you had been renting.
Correct.
For how long?
About 2 years. I'm not really sure. It was well
It was being
over a year.
sold.
Well, I didn't know that until I gave her my notice after I'd already previously asked my sister if we should move in.
So you approached her about you moving in with her.
Yes, correct.
And do you own your own home, Miss Noble?
I do.
Where you were living there alone with your 3 children?
Yes.
Okay, and how much rent were you paying?
$750.
Now, when you decided to move in with your sister, what rent was discussed?
Well, she had told me about $400 is what she wanted.
Okay, so she said the rent was $400 per month, and that was starting August 1st?
Right.
So this is what part of this case is about. Part of the case is about rent. You lived with your sister from August 1st, 2021 to a date in 2022 when you finally removed all of your property.
Kind of. I did not remove all of my property, but I removed what she allowed me to.
To remove on what date?
I'm going to say it was mid-May, but I'm not sure.
May of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So we have August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. So between 9 and 10 months. For the 9 or 10 months that you were there, how many times did you pay her $400 in rent? She's going to have a list.
I have a list too of our.
And you have a list. So why don't you take a look at it and give me the exact number of months?
The time I paid her $400 was, I think, only one time. And there was other times I paid her different amounts, but our agreement was because I bought all the groceries, we just kept track on this app, which has a list. I paid way over $400 in total.
Well.
So our agreement had changed.
Just a second.
Okay.
You have an app, 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
How much did you?
$411.
Okay. And she?
She total was $11,291.
And that was to cover groceries, food, gas money.
Her phone was under mine.
This is something that I'm going to have to simplify. There came a time when there were issues with regard to you not paying her $400 a month rent. And you discussed it with her, correct? And in what month was that?
April.
It was before April. It was before I had gone on vacation.
What month and year?
December of 2021.
So what I'm reading in December of 2021, you had a dispute about how much you were spending, how much you weren't spending, and that $400 was not being forthcoming just for rent. You see, I can understand that the two of you decided to split bills, everything other than the $400 in rent. You each have 3 children. You're 2 adults. Let's get to December. Was it the beginning or middle of December that you had this discussion about just pay $400 a month and we'll deal with it?
Maybe the middle.
Okay. So we have January, February, March, April, and you moved out in May.
Correct. I was kicked out illegally. Yes.
In May.
Yep.
Left in May. So that's 5 months. It was suggested by your landlord that Just give me $400 a month and we'll split groceries.
In April, I have the proof of the text.
Just a second. So we have January, February, March, and April. 4 months. Did you give her $400 a month for those 4 months?
Nope, it was never discussed before. Then I have the proof that it was discussed in April.
I'd like to see it.
Thank you.
It was discussed in April again.
Okay, just a second. I just want to see the proof. Well, show me if you have proof of an earlier conversation.
I don't.
Believe that there was an earlier conversation. Let me see the one that occurred in April.
It was mainly the receipts.
I'm not getting involved with that at all. Right now, you had a place to live with your 3 children for much less than the $750 a month that you were paying at another residence.
Right. And I spent way more on groceries. I did all the groceries.
Whatever. Your children didn't eat more.
Right. And my children
Okay.
didn't live there the full time.
I don't care.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can I look on my phone? It might be faster. Is that okay if I show you the text?
I don't care where you
Okay.
show it to me. Just show it to me.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. So apologize. Okay, apologize. Sorry.
Oh, that wasn't an agreement, madam. These were final acts of desperation to get you to pay $400 a month. Here.
That was the first time I'd heard, about her.
Oh, no. That wasn't the first time you heard about it.
Right.
Because the first line is $400 better be under my door.
Right.
So that's not the first time you heard about it.
Right.
That's an act of desperation. Okay, so you had this conversation with her in December, and she was there until May. And according to you, you only paid $400 once. That's $2,000. By the way, how are your children supported?
I work. Well, I work, yes.
Is that a full-time job or a part-time job?
It was part-time.
Well, you don't support yourself and your 3 children with a part-time job. Do you get any child support for them?
I did get child support for 2 of them, yes.
For 2 of them? Mm-hmm. How much child support do you receive?
$300.
$300 a what?
A month.
Do you get any other assistance?
Yes, I had food stamps.
Mm-hmm. Do you still have food stamps?
Yes.
How much a month?
For something, I'm not exactly sure.
And when you bought food for the household, you used the food stamps as well as your other money from your part-time job, and got it, $400. So far, you owe your sister $2,000. That's for back rent. Now, you want to go through the damages that you allege that your sister caused?
Yes. So I had 2 couches, and those went away.
What do you mean both went away? What does that mean?
She got rid of them.
While she was living there? Mm-hmm. And you knew about it? In what month?
It was when I came back from vacation. My things were gone.
I'm not following. You were supposed to be gone for 2 weeks, according to her.
No, I was gone for 3.5 weeks.
You were gone for almost a month. Mm-hmm. She was babysitting for your children.
They don't really need babysat. They're older.
Well, your 12-year-old can't live by herself without a mother for a month.
No.
Okay. And your 18-year-old does what?
She works at a hotel.
So she works during the day or at night?
She didn't at the time. She was at 17 at the time.
You're not going to leave a 17, a 14, and an 11-year-old alone for a month?
Of course not.
Okay, so they were home with your sister?
Yes.
Let's get back to the initial question. I forgot what my question was before I went off on this tangent. Couches.
The couches.
That's where we're at.
Yes.
So you went away for a month, and when you came back, couches were gone.
Couches, the whole house had transformed into basically her house.
I don't care, basically her house. I want to know what was missing.
So the couches were time before, and I can prove you a text of her saying that they were gone before I even moved in, actually in August. She knew, and her daughter and her boyfriend helped me load them up and take them to the dump. She, in fact, told me she was getting rid of a lot of old furniture she did not care about. I have pictures.
Just a second. What you have is proof that those 2 items were disposed of before she went away on vacation.
Way before I moved in.
Okay. Now, Miss Noble, your sister says that she has proof that those 2 couches were disposed of well before you went away on vacation. If she does, I'm not going to be happy with you. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Were those 2 couches gone before you went on vacation?
I can't recall, but I believe she wanted to make room for her furniture.
Just a second. Were those 2 couches gone before you went on vacation for a month?
I know the basement couch wasn't.
Okay. I think you're full of baloney.
She started giving my niece video games, movies, my food storage containers. She was just giving my things away.
Okay. I went to graduate school after I finished with high school for 9.
Lucinda Noble, claims her sister, Tiffany Acuna, owes for rent and property damage. Tiffany is countersuing for an illegal lockout and filing a false CPS report.
Okay, let's go. Property taken without permission. What property did she take without your permission?
Okay, so
how far she owes you for rent?
The TV stand, she broke it and threw it under the trampoline.
What's next?
The weed trimmer, she took that. She started giving my niece my belongings while I was gone. She started giving my niece video games, movies, my food storage containers. She was just giving my things away.
Okay, she owes you for rent. I went to graduate school after I finished with high school for 9 years. I'm not dealing with Tupperware. So far, she owes you $2,000 for rent.
Okay, and then there was also the wall damage, the windows, the blinds,
just a second. What wall damage and where?
The wall damage is from the room that she was staying in and the room that her boys were staying in.
May I see the damage that you're referring to?
Here's the one more of that, and then here's the blinds, and this was damages from her cat.
Well, this up, I don't know what this is a picture of. Tell me.
That's where her cat clawed up the carpet to get into her room.
Did you replace the carpet?
Not yet.
Do you have an estimate for replacing or patching that carpet?
They don't make that carpet anymore.
Okay, I don't know that. How did these blinds get broken?
I'm not sure. Are those the ones that were in my bedroom or the kids' bedroom? I really don't know, to be honest. But I do feel like I remember them being broken, but I just don't remember if they were broken when I already moved in or not. I really don't know, ma'am. I mean, honestly, I knew they were broken. It's like I'm remembering, but the house, like I said, was not in a good condition when I moved in.
Okay, I'm not talking about the rest of the house.
My daughter is actually, Tiffany told her that she knew they were.
She doesn't remember. You tell me that these blinds were in good condition before she and her family moved in.
Yes.
She says she doesn't remember. I have to rely on what you say to me because that's not ordinary wear and tear.
No.
Do you have a bill for new blinds?
From Lowe's, I have the estimate of what it will cost to replace them.
Okay, I'd like to see it. You do have a cat?
Yes, I have one cat.
Okay.
She has multiple.
So we're talking about $47.98.
Times 2.
Okay. Anything else? Any other?
For 2 blinds.
I only see one.
No, those are 2 different windows.
Oh, times 2. You're right. Anything else?
I have to remove the junk that she left at my house.
I was not allowed at her house.
What else?
That's...
Okay, if you have to think that hard, then we're finished. We're moving over to the countersuit. Okay. Counterclaim is for an illegal lockout. Okay, let me run through this illegal lockout and dispose of it quickly. The illegal lockout that you're referring to happened when your sister, who shouldn't have, took the door off your bedroom.
Correct.
She says she took the door off your bedroom because you weren't paying close enough attention to your children.
Correct.
And I assume she's talking about the 2-year-old.
Correct.
And when she took the door off your bedroom, you called the police.
Right, yep. I called the police. I have the insurance report.
Yes, you called the police, and the police came, and when the police came on, do we have the date?
26th April.
The police arrived, and they told her she couldn't lock the door, and you were let in.
Correct.
Okay, so not egregious enough for me to have to deal with 2 sisters fighting. But the other part of your claim is that your sister filed a false CPS report.
Right.
And first, how do you know a CPS report was...
My witness, who is here right now, because she had pre-warned me because she had gotten the phone call from this sister saying, Lucy is going to call on you.
Okay. Do you want to step up?
Sure.
Tell me your name.
My name's Stephanie Oslett. I'm the older sister from these 2. Yeah.
When did you have a conversation with Miss Noble about the defendant's children?
The same night that the cops were called. Tiffany had called me because Lucy's daughter had crawled through the window and opened the door.
So you spoke to Lucinda?
Yes.
On April 26th?
Yes.
Did you call her or did she call you?
She had called me because she wanted to let me know that the cops had been
Do you recall that conversation?
Yes, I do.
Okay, tell me about the conversation.
She called to let me know that she was letting me know that since I was the only one probably capable or in this position to take on a child, if CPS was involved, because the 2-year-old would not be able to go to his father. He was in prison at the time. And I was like, why are you calling and telling me this? Tiffany's a good mom. What's going on? And she goes, no, she's not. I've already called CPS and forewarned them that this is happening. She needs to be taken care of.
What's happening?
Apparently there was lice on her daughter when she was at her father's house, and the 2-year-old, apparently he was running around with a wet diaper.
Who was taken to their father's house?
The daughter that had the lice was...
The daughter was the 5-year-old?
Yes. And
okay, not the
lice
2-year-old.
Yeah. She supposedly had lice while she was at her dad's.
Went to her father's, and that was sometime in April. Is that correct?
Yes.
And got head lice.
Well, he had told me. I wasn't for sure, but I'd let my sister know just in case that she may have lice. Let's check the girls.
Okay. And your sister was home at the time?
Well, no, she was never home. Everything was over text message.
Just a second. Was that when she was away?
She was not staying at the house. She was not at the residence. She was staying at her boyfriend's house that was there.
Lucinda was staying at her
Yes,
boyfriend's
right.
house?
Yes.
Okay. And that's on the 26th?
Yes.
Is that after the police were called?
That was prior to, supposedly the lice was prior to, and that's why she had called them prior to that night. And she was letting me know that she had called them and that I needed to be prepared to take on a 2-year-old.
What did you tell her?
I asked her why she would call them, what was going on, and I said, this is ridiculous. You know that this is ridiculous? And she goes, no, it's justified. And I said, I don't understand.
Did she tell you why?
Yeah, she tried to tell me that...
well, tell me exactly what she said to you. Why is this justified?
She made the comment that
so she called
Tiffany has
you.
not been there.
Okay, you had to ask
My
her
words
why.
to her.
I never said I was calling CPS. I said someone will. I know the person who did. It wasn't me.
Okay, well...
But I knew it was going to be happening.
Okay, Stephanie, let's get clear, okay? When you spoke to Lucinda and she said to you, in effect, are you prepared to take on a 2-year-old? Did she tell you that someone was calling CPS?
No, she did not. She said that she would be the one calling and that she has already contacted them because of the situation at her home.
Okay. Now, assuming you and your sister lived alone together, whether you spent time with your boyfriend, I know you have older kids, but you were away. When you were away for that month, were you staying with your boyfriend?
Yes.
Okay. And you left your kids alone, correct?
With my sister.
With your sister. Now, why would you feel comfortable about leaving your own children with your sister if you felt that she neglected her own children?
They didn't need the amount of care that a 2-year-old does.
Are you telling me that a 15-year-old doesn't need a lot of care and watching these days? Or a 12-year-old or an 11-year-old doesn't need a lot of watching and supervising? Is that what you're suggesting to me?
Not as much as a 2-year-old.
Well, one is a physical watching to make sure that it eats and drinks and is bathed periodically. The other two are far more difficult. You got to have eyes all over the place to watch a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old. Got to have your eyes on their computer. You've got to have your eyes on their iPad. You have to have your eyes on their schooling, on their homework, on their everything else. You take a month to go off with your boyfriend. That, to me, is not participating with your children, especially since you suggest that your sister, with whom you left your children, was neglecting her own children.
Your Honor, I would just like to say that I was reaching out to her a lot of the time, too, where I would get 1 week there was nothing. She said, I'm sorry, I had no Wi-Fi. Her children were skipping school. They were not listening to me. They would not do their chores.
Do I need you to reinforce what I just said?
Right.
I don't need you to reinforce what I just said. You would have had a history with methamphetamines. You refused to meet with caseworkers, according to the report you gave me.
I have other reports, too, if I may, please.
Lucinda Noble is accusing her sister, Tiffany Acuna, of refusing to pay for rent. Tiffany claims Lucinda wrongfully reported her to Child Protective Services.
Now, you have something you want to say?
Many things, actually.
Well, many things. I don't want many things. What I want, stand up.
I was pulled out and moved to Missouri.
Pulled out by whom? By your mother?
Yeah.
And when your mother pulled you out, how old were you?
17.
Had you been going to school before?
Yes.
In what jurisdiction?
It was an alternative school.
When you say an alternative school, what kind of an alternative school?
For troubled youth.
Tell me about your trouble. Was it behavior trouble? Because
It
you
was
seem
many things. I was a very wild teenager.
until when were you a wild teenager?
Until I sent her to live with her dad.
I didn't ask you any questions. So now you can sit down.
Okay.
I'm not going into anything else. Lucinda, so far you went away for a month with your boyfriend, leaving your 3 children who you say don't need supervision. How long were you home before you took the door off her bedroom?
I got back from vacation in February, early February, and the door was removed in April for a few hours.
Okay. Do you have any proof other than this conversation that the plaintiff called CPS?
I believe it is proof. Just the thing that was reported is something she would only know. Would that be considered proof?
Well,
okay.
Let me hear what was reported.
It was reported that I would not treat my child with lice. That was what the CPS report was, and it was unsubstantiated, and I have that all proof.
Okay. When your 5-year-old went to her father, she went to visit with her father, and children do get head lice. It happens periodically. Lots of children who go to school, who interact with other children, come home and they get head lice. I've had a lot of children, a lot of grandchildren, and it happens. And you usually treat it. I assume that her father did not treat it. Is that right?
He did treat it. He told me immediately.
No. So he treated it. So how do you know that the head lice was the nature of the complaint?
That's what was on the report.
May I see it? Your children weren't removed, except for your boy.
My one son, and then that lady.
And then returned.
All 3.
Oh, yeah.
All 3 kids were taken.
That's it.
Okay. There you go, sir.
Okay. You had a prior history with Child Protective Services.
Which I was unaware.
That's either a yes or a no.
Yep, yes.
And during the course of those prior proceedings, which were relative to Child Protective Services?
In 2018 or 19. This was at my doctor's prior when I was, and they reported it that I had failed one of my
And at that time, you had an open case and you tested positive for serious drugs.
Right.
Very serious drugs. And this says that while under the influence of those drugs, you drove your children to the doctor's office while under the influence.
Right.
That's the report.
Right.
Okay. These reports all seem to indicate that they tried to see you, but you kept canceling appointments with them and were a no-show.
Well,
okay. That's what this report says. You gave me the report.
Right.
So let me understand this. After coming in and making an assessment, Child Protective Services determined to file a petition on behalf of your youngest child. Yes, they did.
Okay, yeah.
Well, after everything I read there, I think that was probably a good idea. I don't know what happened with that. I assume that the petition was ultimately dismissed if you have your children back with you.
Right
Do you
away.
have your children back with you?
Yeah, right away, as soon as I went to court that day.
That's okay. They determined, after they spoke to you, and irrespective of either her motivation or anybody acting on her behalf, or somebody that she knew, or her, called Child Protective Services. The question that I'm presented with, was there a basis for concern about your children?
No.
And based upon the reports that I've read here, and those are reports that you gave me,
Right.
that those serious questions about what was going on with the young children in your house deserved a second look. You had had a history with methamphetamines. You had a serious weight loss. You refused to meet with caseworkers, according to the report you gave me.
I have other reports too, if I may, please.
Thank
you.
I'm not finished.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Because if you've been in family court, as I was for 25 years, often incidents are called in of suspected child abuse and neglect. A caseworker goes out, takes a look, and says, I'll continue to watch it, but I don't have to file a case. It hasn't reached the level where I think that I should file a case and remove a child. In this case, Child Protective Services came and tried to do an investigation, which, according to the worker, you evaded. You missed appointments, you rescheduled, you didn't show up.
One time.
And then, not one time, they also had a prior history of you involving drugs, involving driving your children under the influence of drugs. Recent history didn't happen 20 years ago. If it happened 2019, this says 21. If it happened they had sufficient information based upon what they saw and what they knew to remove the 2-year-old. So that part of your case is dismissed, which is the only part of your counterclaim that I was really entertaining. You owe your sister $2,096, $2,000 for rent and $48 for, I forget what it was, blinds. Thank you. We're done.
My
This court is
property,
adjourned.
We're done.
I had drug tested every month during the time that this happened, and it was like an oopsie under my doctor's supervision.
I just helped her, and she takes advantage and takes advantage.
You don't call CPS on your sister when you're the one that took off to Africa for 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
And this whole thing wasn't about money. It just, I needed someone to tell her, look, you can't take advantage of people anymore.
She's still the outcast that everyone's upset with.
I'm not the outcast, though, but I'm definitely not helping her anymore.
So we've seen it a lot here, claims for unsubstantiated CPS reports being filed and people seeking damages for that. So I'm just wondering, do you think there was a basis? Is that why, obviously, you didn't rule in her favor on the claim of the false CPS report? So there must have been something in there that...
You know, when people use Child Protective Services as a retaliation for other behavior, that's always abhorrent. But there are some situations where CPS may be called because someone knows that there is an abuse or neglect and has not done it until the other person irritates them. Well, that's not a false CPS report. Maybe motivated by something else, but that's not a false report. And so, in this case, the defendant had a history with CPS. Current history with CPS that was relatively serious. Well, then it was a good thing that CPS went.
Because that would be basis itself.
It's basis itself, basis itself.
That alone. And just because she was cleared at the end of the day and has her children back now doesn't mean that it was an unsubstantiated claim.
Oh, no, they're watching. Yeah. They're watching, and they should be watching. I don't think any of them are bargains. The 18-year-old daughter who was here, who was a troubled child, according to her, and never graduated from high school, although she's working, because her mother moved her around also a lot, was certainly an inadequate caretaker for the other 2 younger children. She goes off for a month with her boyfriend. It's amazing how some children just grow up by themselves. Sometimes it works out okay. I don't know, somehow I felt sorry for all of those.
Rand versus Shaw.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Rand, the defendant is the property manager at a place where you used to live.
Yes.
And you are suing her for evicting you from that place. You want a whole bunch of money. You're suing her for $10,000 for your moving expenses, for assault, for emotional distress because you had to move. Ms. Shaw says that your behavior caused you to be evicted. You violated the rules, and that's why you were served notice of eviction. So first, let me know when you started living at the property that is managed by the defendant.
In 2018.
Did you have a lease?
Yes, I did.
Do you have a copy of that lease with you?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at it. Okay, so this initial lease was August of 2019, and it terminated on July 31st, 2020. It provided for 3 people to live in the apartment. Okay, and was the lease renewed?
Nope.
Okay, and so then you became a month-to-month tenant?
Yes.
And that was in February of 2020?
They also increased the rent.
That's okay, they're allowed to do that. That's a business.
No, I know.
They're allowed to do that. When your lease was extended on a month-to-month basis after February of 2020, would you tell me if the same people lived in the apartment as were on the original lease?
No.
So more people moved in?
Yes.
Who?
That would be my sisters and my mother.
Sisters?
Yes.
2 sisters?
Yes.
And when did they move in?
Maybe about, maybe 2020, maybe? Couldn't really be positive.
So that would have been in violation of your original lease?
Yes.
And it was an apartment that you were renting? And the apartment complex has a pool?
Yes, it does.
And the incident around, circumstances surrounding this eviction that was served on you, that happened in what month and year?
It was in June.
Yes. And in November of 2021, did you know that there were additional people living in the house?
Yes.
And didn't tell her that they had to vacate, that it was in violation of the terms of her underlying lease?
I had that morning, actually, when the confrontation happened.
No, I'm talking about, pay attention. My question was, did you register any complaint with the plaintiff about the additional people living? And be very careful that you tell me the truth, because I know that you think you may know where I'm going, but you don't. Did you make any complaint to her November, December, January, February, March, April, or May? The answer is either yes or no about the other people living in the house.
No.
So I guess I'm going to start with you because an incident occurred that resulted in her being evicted, that you're serving her with a notice of eviction.
Right.
Tell me when that took place because I have to know what your reason was. That's a fair statement.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So in June 22, like I said, that morning I had served.
What
that
morning?
June 21st or something, I believe.
What kind of letter were you serving on her?
I just gave them, mine is, it's just a complaint notice, saying that.
Do you have a copy of that?
I may.
Do you know what she's talking about?
Yes, I have a copy.
I'd like to see it.
There you go.
Okay, well, this is a letter that says you and your company were eating and drinking in the pool area even after I told them to stop, that it wasn't allowed. They did not stop, and there is absolutely no eating or drinking in the pool area. Okay, so that's the letter she served to you, and that was on, just a second, let's get it together. So your sister, who wasn't supposed to be there, but they sort of let that skate, who wasn't supposed to be there.
Okay.
Okay, so your sister and who else?
That would be my sister, her boyfriend, and 2 of her friends, or 3 of her friends, I think.
Had they ever been to the pool before?
My sister has, but not her friends.
So the person who wasn't supposed to be living with you, that's your sister,
yes,
invited her boyfriend and 3 other friends to the pool.
She called and asked if it was okay first.
She asked you?
Yes.
And you said fine?
Yes.
You didn't call the manager?
No.
Okay. And you are aware that there's no eating and drinking in the pool?
That's not what it says on my lease.
Is that what it says at the pool?
Nope.
Does it say anywhere in the house rules?
Nope.
Nope, it's not an answer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The answer is no.
No, ma'am, it is not.
No. Now, when you've been living there for a long time, do you use the pool?
Yes, I do.
Ever had any trouble in the time from November of last year? Ever had any complaint?
Nope.
Nope
No,
is not an
sorry,
answer.
sorry,
No
I'm
is
sorry.
the answer. No,
Yeah,
no
okay,
complaint.
no, sorry.
Okay. And did you discuss with your sister and her friends that there were any rules that she had to abide by?
No, I did not, because I was not home yet.
Stand up. First name is?
Aaliyah.
You were their boyfriend and 3 girlfriends. Any children?
No.
You know this lady?
Yes.
What happened when she came to tell you that there was no eating or drinking at the pool?
So we were standing.
Just what happened when she told
She
you?
came screaming at us, telling us that we needed to get the food out and that we needed to go.
Get the food out. What kind of food had you
It was
brought
just
in?
pizza and like a soda and water.
So it wasn't a piece of fruit. You were having a meal there, pizza and food. Had you ever seen your sister bring food into the pool area?
Snacks, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not talking about snacks. Did she ever bring food into the pool area?
No.
What prompted you to order food into the pool area?
It was a hot day and we were hungry and I'm not.
Signs posted around a pool. I've lived in enough places to know, and the pool signs usually say no jumping in the pool, no food or drink around the pool, right?
Yes.
Most pools say that.
Yes.
Did this pool say that?
It just said, like you said, no jumping in the pool, no diving, to come into the pool, but it never said nothing about food, drinks, nothing like that.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. So now you please establish to me, Miss Shaw, that there was notice that there was no food and drink at the pool.
Their pool addendum.
May I see?
And then also no guest addendum.
Just a second.
It's all part of their.
Hold on. You're Melissa Duran.
Yes, I am.
And that's your signature?
Yes.
Yes. The pool is reserved exclusively for the use of residents of the building. That's what it says.
Okay.
That's what you signed. No diving in the pool area, no intoxicated persons. Okay. I just want you to show me here, first of all, the only thing that they are violating is that pool is reserved exclusively for the residents of the building. That's in here, but I don't see anything about food.
The new pool addendum wasn't part of their contract. So when we put out the new one, it was for more updated tenants, but we didn't serve them on the food, we served them on the guests.
Is what you're saying to me. The only thing that she signed is this, and there is no sign around the pool that says no eating or drinking.
There is a sign by the pool.
Do you have a copy of it?
I don't have a copy of that.
Why not?
I texted her that I was sorry that they had food in the pool, and I did not know that.
So that you knew they weren't supposed to have food in the pool.
Yeah, but I didn't know they bring it. The thing.
Just a second.
Melissa Duran claims her former property manager, Tracy Shaw,
posted the new pool addendum on all of the doors. And I have actually text messages of Melissa asking me, can we, the no floaties? And I said, well, of course,
May I?
For children and whatnot, but not big floaties. Okay. So she was acknowledging the pool addendum that I had.
That I'll see. Now, she's going to show me your text messages to her.
Yes.
So you received the revised pool rules.
Yes.
And did the new pool rules.
Hi, xin chào các bạn, chào mừng các bạn đã đến với kênh của mình. Hôm nay chúng ta cùng tô màu bức tranh một gia đình cùng 3 thành viên đang đọc sách. Mình sẽ lấy màu này tô cho tóc. Áo bố sẽ là màu xanh này. Áo mẹ sẽ là màu vàng này. Mình sẽ có màu xanh nhạt tô cho quyển sách. Vậy là chúng ta đã hoàn thành xong bức tranh một gia đình cùng 3 thành viên đang đọc sách. Và đây là thành quả ngày hôm nay. Hẹn gặp lại các bạn ở những video tiếp theo.